Folks in the back, is it possible to kill these side lights? When you're ready, Amelia.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Finance Committee meeting for February 14th, 2023. Our first order of business is approval of the minutes. Recommended action, approval of the January 10, 2023 Finance Committee meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
Yes, I'm sorry, second.
Call for the vote.
Yes.
Yes. We have more than one presentation this evening. The first presentation is the comprehensive plan, and I see they're ready to go, and so are we. Anxious to hear what you have to say.
We could bring the PowerPoint up on the screen, please. Thank you. Good evening, members of the board, Coatesville Area School District employees, parents, and community members. Tonight, we're going to go through our process where we planned out and worked through our comprehensive plan. And we're going to review a key number of steps that we did. A bulk of tonight's presentation is actually going to be spent on the goals, strategies, and action steps that were developed by a comprehensive planning steering committee. I'll be introducing the steering committee to you in a few minutes. It's important to take a look at the process that we went through. Last summer, our school board reviewed a series of goals that were set for the 2021-2023 comprehensive plan and edited those goals a little bit. In our process, we actually took a look at those goals. We reviewed the prior 2021 through 23 plan. We reviewed a lot of pertinent data that was accumulated over that time. We sat down as a steering committee and identified priorities. We also created strategies to accomplish the goals, and we put in place a series of action steps that would enable us to implement each of the strategies that were designed. The steering committee also reviewed in detail the comprehensive plan. Now, behind me are sitting in the section here on the floor a number of members from the steering committee. We are very grateful to these steering committee members for not only giving their time, but also for their dedication and care for the Coatesville Area School District and the discourse and discussions that they had in helping us prepare this plan. I can't thank this committee enough for what they have done, but what I would like to do is call them out by name and who they represented. I think it's important for board members to know who these folks are who gave up so much time, emotion, as well as discussion on what we need to do to be able to drive this school district forward over the next 3 years. I'm going to go in alphabetical order. Peter Altland, Administrator, please stand when I call your name. Allie Appleman, Administrator. Tabitha Bentley, staff member. Elizabeth Brindle, community member. Cassandra Burgess, community member. Brian Chenger, administrator. Sarma Klauser, staff member. Kelly Cole, administrator. Jordan Kranz, community member. Melanie Crescents, staff member. John Deanna, administrator. Lori Diefendorfer, administrator. Jennifer Ellis, parent. Jamie Estrada Zarita, staff member. Teresa Ezzi, community member. Kristen Gawker, parent, Brenda George, administrator, Michael Green, community member, Sharon Harden, community member, Rebecca Harlan, board member, Carol Heindel, administrator, Nadine Hinton Davis, community member, Chelsea Ioza, parent, Melanie Johnson, parent, Cassandra Jones, administrator, Sandy Kinsler, parent, Michelle Cry-Waruka, parent, Catherine Lamoth, administrator, Stephanie Lane, parent, Helen Last, parent, Jeanette Lennon, administrator, James Logan, community member, Jody Mawson, parent, Stephanie McPherson, parent, Heather Messenger, administrator, Amelia Mills, board member, Michelle Muhammad, parent, Liz Muirhead, community member, Carrie Myers, administrator, Jason Pelaya, administrator, Dan Pellegrin, administrator, Stephanie Perry, parent, Nick Pileggi, administrator, Ray Reagan, community member, Aaron Robinson, administrator, Donna Rowland, community member, Annabelle Simmers, parent, Linwood Smith, community member, Erica Snyder, parent, Michelle Snyder, administrator, Teresa Walker, parent, Luann Watterson, staff member, Amanda Weeks, parent, Jarvin Williams, administrator, and Liren Yako, community member. I can't thank you all enough for the work that you did in helping bring this plan forward. Thank you. Not to sit here and state and read from slides, but I think these next two slides are very important to the Coatesville Area School District. They're so important that we need to read through these next two slides. You see, the mission, the vision, and the values make up the ethos that we all live by in this community of doing what's right and what's expected for our students. The mission of the Coatesville Area School District, rich in diversity and committed to excellence, is to create innovative educational experiences which are funded by the taxpayers, supported by the community, delivered by dedicated teachers and administrators to ensure all students will become responsible, contributing global citizens. And the vision of the Coatesville Area School District, a leader in the educational community, views each student's academic and personal growth as an investment in the future. Graduates will be empowered to make choices that ensure positive contributions to society. In taking a look at our educational values, when it comes to students, we believe that all students deserve a high-quality education that is innovative, driven by evidence-based educational best practices, and prepares students with the skills necessary for success in the 21st century. This should be an equitable experience for all students, where diversity and individuality are celebrated. The needs of the whole child should be taken into consideration to drive educational programming so that students can be successful in any post-secondary pursuit of their choice. Our values for staff is we believe that the Coatesville Area School District staff are a skilled group of professionals who are dedicated to their students and the larger success of the Coatesville Area School District. We believe that in order to most positively impact the education of their students, Coatesville Area School District teachers and staff should be provided with professional learning opportunities that help to further develop their skills and provide them with an array of tools and strategies to support the diverse needs of their students. Our values towards administrators. We believe that the role of Coatesville Area School District administration is to support the continued advancement of the district through the implementation of a coordinated set of strategies that are designed to address the needs of the district while supporting the district's strengths. In order to serve in this role, Coatesville Area School District administrators should remain up to date on current trends and best practices in the field of education, have the ability to implement plans aligned to district-level goals, and provide the training and support needed for teachers and staff to deliver a high-quality education to all students. Our values towards parents is we believe that all parents play a vital role in the education of their students and are a valued partner in educational decision-making. In order to be informed participants in their students' education, communication with families is key related to the events in the district. their students' school, classroom, and their students' educational progress, and our values towards our community. We believe that the Coatesville Area School District is one part of a proud, larger community that is rich in tradition. As a group of residents, business owners, and other stakeholders, we believe that the community can serve as partners in supporting the educational mission of the school district, which will contribute to success in the larger community. We did a needs assessment going through this process. We took a look at our PA Ready Index. We looked at a lot of different students' performance data, which is listed on the slide. We developed, as you've heard before, 8 supplemental LEA plans. I can't say it enough. This committee was part of that. Many members on this committee, since March of last year, created 8 of those supplemental plans that needed to be turned in to the Department of Education. We looked at a lot of essential practices that we talked about in our meetings. And we addressed a number of challenges and strategies throughout the plan. What you're going to hear now is how we are planning to accomplish the goals through the strategies and action plans. I'm going to turn over this next part of the presentation to Mr. Pelayo, who is going to talk about the student achievement goals and the strategies and action steps that are going along with that.
Thanks, Dr. Dunlap. Good evening, Board of School Directors and community members. As you can see, the student achievement goal focuses on a standard-aligned curriculum that is student-centered. It continues to focus on evidence-based practices through the MTSS process. We have 3 targeted years that we're focusing on, and throughout the course of those years, there's a heavy focus on curriculum development in all of our core subject areas. As you know, our K-5 ELA curriculum was already approved last year. We're going to continue with refining our MTSS process and ensure that our special education is expanding the continuum of supports to all grade levels K-12. There's a heavy focus on career and technical courses and bringing those into the school district. You'll see this evening on the Education Committee agenda is a partnership with the CCIU to bring in some courses for next year. Part of the Student Achievement Strategy 1 is to rewrite ELA, Math, Social Studies, Science, and STEM curriculum aligned with current state standards. The Curriculum Department has been working on this along with the curriculum coordinators and curriculum writers. There's been a heavy focus on the core content and STEM over the past year, and that work will continue over the next 3 years. We want to make sure that the curriculum provides continuity and coherence with instruction. When we say continuity and coherence, we mean it vertically and horizontally, not only within the grade level, but also from grade level to grade level. I've mentioned before, and I'll continue to mention as we work through the comprehensive plan, that curriculum is an ongoing process. It's never completed. It should be cycling through every few years, relooking at the curriculum that is written, and ensuring that the resources that we use are up to date. Continued Student Achievement Strategy 1 is some action steps is that we want to make sure that while we're rewriting the curriculum, that our teachers are provided with the professional development to implement that curriculum. We want to make sure that teachers have the tools to be able to implement this within their classrooms, not only the current core curriculum, but also the interventions that we're bringing in to support the curriculum. I think the key to effective implementation and implementation done with fidelity is to ensure that the teachers are properly trained. We want to continue to improve upon our existing data teams and PLCs. We've started those last year, focusing on ELA, and continue this year to work in math. This is a great foundation that we have. Teachers have really taken their time to dive into the data to ensure that they're instructing students based on their needs and their strengths. We want to ensure the content is understood, so we want to make sure that students are given common formative and summative assessments, meaning that teachers per grade level throughout the district and subject area are all administering the same formative and summative assessments. Strategy number 2 is to develop and implement a framework of MTSS supports across all grade levels. This is something that we started with our academics, heavily focused on ELA, but we know that there needs to be some refining, and we need to make sure that we are implementing response to instruction and intervention with fidelity. We developed this toolkit for MTSS prior to implementing that process. We want to continue refining that toolkit and adding to the toolkit to make sure all aspects of education are hit, meaning not only the academic piece, but the social piece and the emotional piece, while looking at attendance and behavior also. So as we continue the process, it needs to be refined to include components to assist with use of data to develop specially designed instruction for all kids. As I mentioned, we want to take a heavy look at the social emotional learning of our students. We are currently piloting a program, K-7. Actually, it's a screener, not a program. You've heard us talk about that before. Provides us data that we can use to assist students with emotional regulations. We also want to start a pilot program in the secondary level using Navigate 360. We have focused on the early warning system for K-5, meaning that we're focusing on targeting students' needs early with the assistance of the data that we've collected. We want to move that into grades 6 through 12 to support on-time graduation, course completion rates, and academic achievement, also to improve attendance and reduce chronic absenteeism. And finally, something that was heard loud and clear during our steering committee meetings is that there needs to be more communication about the MTSS process. While we've done a good job of communicating out to families using flyers and presenting at PTO meetings and talking to parents about it during one-on-one meetings, we need to continue to communicate with families what the MTSS process is, but most importantly, what the benefits are from the MTSS process. And student achievement strategy number 3 is to expand the continuum of evidence-based special education services and supports within the district. We want to establish a range of educational placements from least restrictive to most restrictive. Again, the key to this is providing our teachers with professional development so we can have implementation with fidelity. We want that professional development to be relevant and meaningful. Focus on assessment, instruction, behavior, and most importantly, IEP development. And we want to explore ways to enhance transition-related services within the district. We want to make sure we're assisting our students and preparing our students for life after graduation. Again, I think you'll see when we talk about the budget, determination of a possibility of employing an in-district transition coordinator, which is something some of our local school districts have. Strategy 4 is to offer career and technical education, CTE courses, and content areas within the Coatesville Area School District. We've worked very hard recently to build some partnerships with local companies, and we want to continue to do that, but we also know that our students often like to stay here on campus while they might be interested in the trades. None of those courses are offered currently here on campus. So we're working with Joe Fullerton from the CCIU, and we're looking to bring in a constructions trade, allied health program. We already have a teacher academy. We want to ensure that our students are well aware of these programs, so we've actually just recently done a survey for our students in 9th through 12th grade. That survey will end this Friday. We're collecting interest on construction trade, allied health, and teacher academy. We actually have 44 students who are right now, based off the survey, interested in construction trade. We have 36 interested in allied health and 18, which is great, in the teacher academy. One of the other things that we're looking to expand is our partnership. You've heard me mention Morgan, it was Morgan Trucking, which is now called Morgan Body. We have the possibility of having 8 students every year participate in an internship program there. Last year we had 3 graduate, and this year we have 5 graduating with a certificate in welding. Those 5 students at 18 will graduate with a job offer of $42,000, full benefits, and 100% tuition reimbursement if they choose to go back to school in the evenings. In addition to that, they'll continue reaching different levels of certification in that welding program. And this is something we're looking to do and expand with some other companies in the area. Next, we have school climate and culture goals, which will be discussed by Brenda George.
Okay, so you'll notice as we go through the comprehensive plan that there's going to be some crossover between our subcommittees. And that's intentional because we want to create a system that's aligned across the district in all areas. So our school climate and culture goal says Coatesville Area School District will create a positive and equitable climate in schools and address the needs of historically underperforming groups by conducting and implementing recommendations from an equity quality review, as well as creating a strategic mental health plan, continue implementation of a trauma-informed schools professional development plan, and a positive behavior support plan. The district should continue to implement a communications plan, a marketing plan, and an athletics and activities strategic plan by June of 2025. Target year 1 is the Coatesville Area School District will conduct an equity audit. And year 2, Coatesville Area School District will develop an audit plan and begin implementation based on recommendations from that equity audit. Strategy number 1 is conduct an equity audit in partnership with a reputable external evaluator that includes classroom, schools, policies, practices, and procedures. When we begin this plan, we'll have to reach out to find somebody that we can work with that will be able to meet our needs in conducting this audit. We will need to work on establishing an equity team that may include administrators, teachers, support staff, and other district personnel who are interested in participating on the team. And this would be an internal equity team. We would conduct an internal analysis by the equity team, and then the external analysis and the research would be done by our external, or by our the selection of the person that is doing the equity audit with us. We would plan our meetings with our current partners and then review other supports and agencies that may be able to work with us in our partnership with the equity audit. We have more action steps. This is a long process, but what I want to be very clear is that as many steps as we have here, there are other steps that we will not know until we are working through that audit. We would be conducting an equity audit district-wide and share the results publicly with the Coatesville Area School District community, reviewing board policies and administrative regulations, analyzing student achievement data, discipline data, looking at our Safe Schools report, and reviewing other materials as required to complete an audit, including our PACE survey. Throughout this entire process, I want to make it clear that we will be having many, many conversations with our community. We will have a community group that is here working with us and having some open and honest conversations so that we can come up with some results that meet the needs of not only our schools and our students, but our entire community. We would be looking to identify the resource to effectively monitor the effectiveness and changes recommended in the equity audit, develop an equity plan based on the recommendation from the internal and equity external audit, implement the recommendations generated from the equity audit and monitor the effectiveness of those changes, establish a monitoring and reporting cycle to effectively monitor and manage progress towards our equity goals. And then one piece that came up as we were speaking about all of the training and the things that are likely needed to be done as we go through our equity audit is that we will put lots of time and effort and energy and funds into training our staff. And so we think it's important that we look at working with our Human Resources Department to develop a retention plan so that we may be able to retain staff, and that the movement that we make to proceed and to move forward with this plan, we can continue making that forward movement rather than having to start again with turnover and new staff.
Can you take a breath? To the gentleman in the back, can you let Mr. Brown in Zoom so he can see the presentation? Thank you.
Okay. So strategy 2 is to review and revise a student support plan to include social emotional learning, address behavioral mental health support programs, and return or develop any outsourced programs that can be offered within the Coatesville Area School District.
Yeah, just keep sharing the action steps. We'll catch the slide up.
Okay.
Here it is.
All right, so what we'll need to do is train all staff and administrators in trauma-informed care. That training has already begun this year. We have a plan for that to continue for the next 3 years. Utilize support from the Department of Justice Stop the Violence Grant and the partnership that we have with the Lincoln Center or other organizations to provide that training. We'll be managing and maintaining district and building level trauma care teams. Establish a system and a committee for evaluating the effectiveness of our FCL programs, and that would be in partnership with the Student Achievement Team. Create a comprehensive student support system to provide mental health supports for all students, and establish partnerships to provide those tiered levels of interventions for students, and this is very important, and staff. We need to include our staff. Some additional action steps: inform community stakeholders of trauma care initiatives, implement a comprehensive tiered system of mental health supports for all students, offer parent community workshops, and utilize community stakeholders to support parent and community workshops. All right. Next is our facilities goal, and this is Dan Pellegrin.
Good evening, board and the public. This is I'd like to present the facilities goal. But before I get started, one of the things that I want to point out that I think is extremely important is you will see as you follow along with the facilities goal, how the facilities goal ties to the master facility planning. So that's a real important piece as I go through this entire facilities goal. That is one of the things that you will see. So Coatesville Area School District will implement a multi-year facilities maintenance plan for providing modern educational spaces for student learning and supporting fiscally responsible, proactive maintenance of district buildings. In target year 1, we will develop the comprehensive plan with support of a steering committee. The facilities maintenance plan will be approved by the school board. The master's facilities plan will continue to be developed. In target year number 2, the Coatesville Area School District will begin implementing a multi-year facilities maintenance plan that supports fiscally responsible, proactive maintenance of all district properties. Again, the master facilities plan will continue to be developed. In target year 3, again, it will be master facility plan tying into the facilities goal. In our first strategy, the strategy was to complete and implement a CASD, Coatesville Area School District, facilities maintenance plan that will provide a clean, orderly, safe, cost-effective, and instructionally supportive school environment that contributes to the school district's mission of educating our children to meet the intellectual, physical, and emotional demands of the 21st century. The action steps in our strategy number 1 is basically all tied to maintenance. So we will work to create a budget in cooperation with the business department that realistically supports a proactive preventive maintenance plan, which we've actually already started this plan. We're already working with preventive maintenance. We are working on our equipment that's in all of our buildings, and we're building this preventive maintenance plan, which will continue into the future. We will also, and we are doing this currently, we'll still work with creating RFPs and requests for quotations, RFQs, from local businesses and organizations, and utilize the various consortiums available to support the needs of the Coatesville Area School District. We will provide routine updates to the Coatesville Area School District community about upcoming facility projects and financial needs. We will provide heating plant upgrades as needed throughout the district, and we will continue to work and repair roofs throughout the district in all of our schools. We will install piping HVAC insulation at various schools that we're having troubles with. We'll make efforts to conserve energy throughout the district. As everyone's well aware, we have an ESCO project that's going on currently. We'll continue to work through that ESCO project to its completion, and we will look at other areas that the district can save money through utilities. We will implement a preventive maintenance program. We'll develop a plan to address ADA-related building issues that provides short-term solutions and long-term plans for older Coatesville Area School District buildings. We will look at removing old chalkboards and replace them with whiteboards. We'll conduct mold remediation as needed throughout the district through our third-party environmentalists to make sure that the buildings are safe. We will develop a protocol for advertising facilities availability and a streamlined process for outside groups to schedule for a fee. The fees collected can be allocated to the cost of upkeep of our facilities. We currently have a system that we're working with, and we're going to continue to work with that system. Inventory all facilities related to athletics and activities across the district. We'll audit and inspect all facilities related to athletics and activities to determine maintenance, repairs, and replacement in each location. We'll develop ongoing funding plan for facilities. We'll sell advertising and naming rights of fields and facilities. We will host food trucks at different events, and the funds will be split to support facilities upkeep as needed. The last action step will be increased offering of the pool for evening and weekend swim lessons taught by the high school students. We'll try to look at lifeguarding certification classes that could be held in our pool. Moving on to strategy number 2. Strategy number 2 is we provide facilities that protect the safety and security of all students and staff, create safe and secure environments to help promote the achievement of the school's education objectives, minimizing the risk of acts of crime and violence to all individuals in our buildings. Take a systems-based approach to layered physical security in all Coatesville Area School District facilities. The action steps that fall under that category are we will look to install new vape detection systems. We'll evaluate and update camera systems throughout the district. We'll install bulletproof glass or film in all entry portals at each school. We'll review all fencing, so fencing that's throughout the property lines. We'll upgrade them as needed. We'll continue to make exterior lighting improvements at all district buildings. We are currently underway with that, and we'll continue that in other schools. We will determine budget needed and secure initial funds through the district, community fundraising, and partnership sponsorships. We'll develop a plan for implementation of the weapons detection system, and if needed, we'll purchase additional weapons detection units. Our strategy number 3 basically is provide current, reliable technology in all buildings and to all students and staff. Technology should give students 24/7 access to information and resources that enable them to find, curate, and create content and connect with people all over the world to share ideas, collaborate, and learn new things. Additionally, technology should provide students with the education they need to thrive in a globally connected world. Therefore, we must find ways to design, fund, acquire, and maintain the infrastructure that will make reliable connectivity a reality for every teacher and student in every learning environment within the Coatesville Area School District. Action steps are eliminate all dead spots in all of our district buildings. We will update old supported servers throughout the district. We'll also update old unreliable switches. We'll replace non-functioning unified power systems, UPSs. We'll create a plan that will continue to support the one-to-one initiative well into the district's future. We'll look into protecting all Chromebooks with an appropriate case. We'll continue a plan to refresh teacher laptops as they become unsupported. We'll develop a plan for implementation of the weapons detection system. And I will be moving this over to Lori Diefendorfer.
Thanks, Dan. Okay, so the final goal relates to the finances for the district. So our goal is by June 2025 to implement a balanced budget that plans for increases in our fund balance. And you'll see for target year 1 and target year 2, our goal is to also implement a balanced budget that plans for increases in the fund balance. So our strategy in order to accomplish this is to compile annual budgets that adhere to district policies related to fund balance management. And you'll see that as an action step in strategy 1, 2, and 3, because that's very important for us to be able to sustain supporting not only the student achievement, but also the climate and culture, and then facilities. We will continue to collaborate with our bus contractor to fund cost savings related to routing. We've talked about hiring a grant writer and a communications person in-house in order to market the district even more, and then conduct a policy review just to make sure that our policies are not only current, but that we are also following the policies. Our second strategy is, again, to implement a balanced budget that plans for increases in our fund balance, which supports the district's initiatives related to preventive maintenance and our aging infrastructures. As I mentioned, same action step is to compile the annual budgets, and then we've also want to decrease our charter school enrollments by making sure we have the proper resources to manage the budget, attract families, and obviously keep families from leaving the district. And that could relate back to hiring the communications person as well. As Dan had mentioned, we would also do some additional requests for proposals just to make sure we have all the contact and maintenance services at the best cost for the district. And we would continue to fund proactive maintenance positions to support our current facilities. The other item we will continue to do is to share our master facility plan, and we will talk a little bit about that tonight as well. And then our final strategy is to implement a balanced budget that plans for increases in the fund balance, which supports the district's initiatives relating to student achievement and climate and culture. Our action steps 1 and 2 remain the same, but we will also review all our staffing positions and to make sure that we have all the instructional operation needs for the district. And that includes reviewing our enrollment reports, our class rosters, our teachers' full-time equivalencies, course selection data, and student needs. We are actually going through that process right now as we are developing our budget, so you can see how the comprehensive plan ties into our budget. And then same here, we will conduct requests for proposals related to the educational services, and then tied into creating a technology replenishment cycle for the district. So you'll probably notice that there's a common theme about implementing a balanced budget for increases in our fund balance. And that's important because we have a policy 620 relating to our fund balance. And in that policy, it states that the maintenance of a fund balance is essential to the preservation of the financial integrity of the school district and is physically advantageous for both the school district and the taxpayers. So that common theme is very important in order for us to accomplish the goals that's in our comprehensive plan.
So tonight, and Dr. Van Voorn is with us tonight. Kathy, thank you for being here. You have a plan going forward that will help you as you come in with your entry plan and transition into the district. Two good things about it. It gives you a direction to go, and even more importantly, you don't have to worry about doing this for the next 3 years. But what I hope everyone sees is that the goals and strategies and action steps are not operating in silos. This work is being planned to be interdependent upon the teamwork and the people supporting each other. And I have to go back to this group of folks here behind me and sitting to my left. You know, for the last 10 weeks, and the two board members up on the stage, the last 10 weeks, the time that they gave up to really put this together, and I just wish that the community could see the amount of work. We tried to go 2 hours a night when we met, but that often went a lot longer. And again, I can't thank you enough for your dedication to seeing this through and the work that you provided in bringing this plan forward. This plan will be posted actually longer than the required 28 days by the Department of Education. Going out in about 15 minutes is a letter to parents and members of the community and staff about a survey in regards to this plan. So we'll be able to get some feedback on this plan. And then we have the board meetings in February, on February 28th, and also the special board meeting on March 14th, that if we have to adjust this plan, we can go ahead and do that. And this plan is scheduled to come before the board for final adoption on March 28th. There are still two supplemental plans that need to be completed. The good news is that they're pretty much done. We're just waiting on the Department of Education to upload those templates into their portal, and then we'll send those in as soon as they put them on board, and we can do that. At this point in time, I'd like to open it up for any questions or comments from board members.
I wanted to say that can you hear me? I wanted to say that it was an absolute honor to work with all of you. We had some lively discussions, and sometimes we weren't always on the same spot at the same time, but we came around and we compromised and have some wonderful ideas. So I'm proud of the plan, and I'm proud to have worked with you. And you're very lucky, Kathy.
So, first of all, committee members, thank you for the time that you gave up to put this plan together. I have a couple questions. First of all, under the curriculum part, there was mention of career tech education partnering with the CCIU about that. Is that different than what we have with the students who go to TCHS?
I can answer that for you.
Okay.
Yes, the difference is that we'll do those programs on our campus and in our buildings, rather than going to TCHS. We have, through conversations with students and student groups, we know that there's a good number of kids that want to participate in those programs, but they don't want to go to TCHS. One of the other benefits of bringing them into our house is, as you know, we've struggled to find a woodshop teacher for the entire year. In fact, both shops are not being used. The construction trade program will utilize at least the woodshop here, and it'll be taught by someone who actually was in that field.
And is there a plan on continuing partnership with Delaware County?
Yes, that's going to continue.
Okay. Next is, you were talking about the early warning system. Is that you're looking at as a plan to kind of catch problems and course correct?
Exactly.
In elementary?
Yep, it's already being utilized in the elementary. Fortunately, we have the benchmark assessments actually that are running in ELA from kindergarten through 7th grade, which assist with that early warning system, but we also want to implement it in the secondary level with the students in 8th through 12th.
Okay. Is that just strictly academics, or is that also including like social emotional aspects?
No, it will include all the aspects of MTSS, which is behavioral, academic, social emotional, attendance.
Okay. Transitional services. That is something that's going to be implemented as part of special education to prepare those students for life after graduation? What do you see that as?
So our transition, right now, we really work with the CCIU to provide some of that job training and things like that. Ultimately, what we would like to do is hopefully be able to get a transition coordinator for our own district, establish some partnerships with our community, and run our own program where we are actually taking kids out, teaching those job skills, helping them to be prepared for adult life.
Okay. With school and climate and culture, with the trauma-informed care, which I'm very supportive of. So how does, you mentioned a hierarchical support system to come in and help with implementing that. Like, what does that look like in your mind?
So the training is already occurring. We started that this year, so that will continue for 3 years, and we want to branch that out. Right now, we're really focusing on our classroom teachers and administrators. Eventually, it's going to branch out into all support staff, everybody in the buildings, and including our school board members would be a part of that training. In terms of providing the services, right now, most of our mental health services are provided to students that are identified with disabilities, either 504 or IEP, IDEA. Our mental health therapists do help to support students that may be in crisis that are not identified, but what I would like to have and to see at the end of this is that we have tiered levels of support for all students.
And then my last was about the vape detection systems. What does that kind of look like? It's kind of, is it like a building-wide system where it's like reading students, picking up signals or something like that? Like, what does that look like? Because this is the first time I've ever heard of something like that, because I know kids can hide them very easily.
Yeah, so there's various systems out there. There are systems that could be ceiling mounted and be put into the bathroom areas, restrooms, that will pick up when there's vape in the air. There is systems, and again, we didn't do a whole lot of research with the ones at the entry points, but there are systems, to my knowledge, that actually may pick up the actual vape pen, depending on what it's constructed out of. So there are the two methods. We're just researching it now. But again, these are something that we know are available, and it's in the research process.
So kind of like a carbon monoxide detector?
Similar to that, yes. So and they look very, very similar to that carbon monoxide smoke detector type thing.
Okay.
And again, they mostly go into the bathroom areas because that's where I think most of the vaping happens.
Okay, and then last question I have is about weapons detection units. Are we just, other than the metal detectors that were purchased to be installed?
So what was purchased actually is not a metal detector, it's a weapons detection system.
Oh, it is a weapons
They are two different things. So weapon detection and metal detectors are not one and the same.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
metal detector would just kind of
Metal
detect
detector
all
would
metal.
pick up anything that's constructed, that's ferrous.
Okay.
So anything like, small knives, things like that, metal detectors. But then metal detectors also pick up Chromebooks, cell phones,
Right.
and a lot of other things that weapon detection does not pick up.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. Like I said, thank you for this presentation. If I can maybe add a quick footnote. I know that other districts in the area really, really utilize social workers in their schools to help with things like school and climate and culture, and also giving extra mental health support and so forth. I would just offer my suggestion of looking into employing, including social workers, to help with parts of the comprehensive plan. They are a vital resource, and I think sometimes they get underutilized in school districts, and I think it would be a benefit for ours. So, thank you.
Ms. Mills, just a quick comment, if I may, please. On behalf of the board, it doesn't seem adequate to just say thank you, but nonetheless, to the entire committee, thank you anyway. Dr. Dunlap, starting with you, this doesn't happen without your leadership. And I can remember, it seemed like just last week, but a while back when we started on this journey, and you sat down with me and said, here's how I'm going to handle this, and this is what we're going to do, and we're going to put this committee together, and we're going to do A, B, and C, and I'm thinking to myself, how's that man going to run this school district and do all that at the same time? But as always, you found a way to do it, so thank you for your leadership. To the entire committee, thank you for your respect and dedication to the students of this school district. Greatly appreciate it. And it culminates tonight in this presentation when you should be home with your Valentine. But you're here, and that speaks volumes to your dedication. So on behalf of the entire board, to the entire committee, administration, teachers, community members, everyone, I don't want to forget anybody, but a great thank you from the entire board. Thank you.
Thank you.
We're only going to take one breath, and then we're going to get ready for our next presentation. And that is an audit review. Christopher Hearn. Thank you. We have another presentation coming up.
We're putting it up there, should I just get started? Ready to roll? All right. Appreciate being able to be here tonight to present the June 30, 2022 financial statements that were recently issued. My name is Chris Herm, I'm a partner with Maley. We were the independent auditors who conducted your audit. So I do have a brief 5-6 page summary that hopefully each of you have handy that sort of summarizes all the points of the audit. I think it's all really good news that I have tonight. The first page, the summary of findings and results from our audit. Our auditor's report, this is our opinion on your financial statements. It is an unmodified opinion. That's the best opinion you can have. It's what you want to have on your financial statements. What that essentially means is that in our opinion, statements are free of any material misstatement. They comply with all GAAP. It's generally accepted accounting principles. They comply with all GASB requirements. That's the Governmental Accounting Standards Board that is constantly coming up with new rules that makes the statement the 90-page monster that it is. There's no scope limitations. We come into the audit with a very lengthy to-do list for the business office, asking for everything from bank statements through invoices, every employee's W-2 we look at, we compare it to the prior year, everything in between. We got everything that we needed in order to conduct our audit. No instances of non-compliance and no findings this year. I did summarize, we had 2 findings last year during the audit. One related to the preparation of the CFA schedule, which is a schedule that summarizes all your federal awards. One had gotten missed last year that we caught during our audit. There was also some issues related to the timing and dating of checks. Both those were resolved. So we had no issues this year. Everything was good, exactly what we expected to see from that perspective. So again, good news there. The uniform guidance audit, also known as the single audit or the audit of federal awards. We are required to perform as part of our audit a sort of a separate audit that is really focused on just your federal grants. The Child Nutrition Cluster, IDEA, Title I, a lot of that COVID money that's been going around. We did have no deficiencies, no weaknesses, no findings as a result of that. We did look at 2 programs this year. One is the Education Stabilization Fund. This is all that COVID ESSER money that's coming out. And we also looked at the Child Nutrition Cluster. So of about $13.5 million of federal money that we spent this year, year. We audited about 9.7 of it, which is really good coverage from a single audit perspective. We actually ended up getting your two biggest programs this year. Low-risk auditee status, you're not considered a low-risk auditee. That's a result of the financial findings last year. There was a very specific federal checklist that we have to go down. It didn't actually change anything. With the two programs that we audited, we would have had to audit anyway, so it didn't really change the scope of the audit at all. And again, the last thing there, no findings, no question calls. On the page 2, I just always like to point out some of the estimates that are in the financial statement. Capital assets and the related accumulated depreciation. The governmental activities, assets of the school district, this is everything outside of food service. Total cost of assets, about $270 million. Accumulated depreciation on that is about $127 million. So you're a little less than halfway through the life of your asset, which is pretty good. I typically see sometimes 50, 60%, to be under 50. Shows me that you're constantly putting more assets into service as you're going through depreciation. Business type activities, about $1.6 million there. This is the food service, about $1.5 million in depreciation. You're about 95% of the way through the life of those. That's pretty typical for the sort of things that we see in a food service capital asset listing. The net pension liability, this is your share of the PSERS pie, so to speak. Big decrease this year. Went from $147 million last year down to $113 million this year. So, roughly 20% decrease. The reason for that is there's a one-year look-back here. So in your June 30, 22 financial, you're actually presenting PSERS information as of June 30, 21. And from 20 to 21, at the state level in the PSERS plan, the unfunded liability that gets spread out to all the schools went from about $49 billion to $41 billion. So because the investments in the PSERS plan performed really well, the liability drop, that got spread out to everybody, and that's what you've reflected. That's what every school district I work on got reflected. I will say that drop, I was looking at the June 30, 22 numbers that you'll be reporting next year. About half of that's already come back. It's all the market. We all know what it's been doing for the last 24, 18 months. So I would expect that to end up sort of in the middle next year, but that's the reason for that drop. The deferred outflows and inflows related to the pension, I always like to put them in. Again, that's all actuarial driven. It's just, again, your share of the PSERS numbers. Net OPEB liability went from $13 million down to about $11.6. Again, there's a PSERS component there that resulted in the decrease. And the last big estimate is compensated absences based on employees and sick time and pay rates. Pretty steady. 1.4 million came down to 1.25, so relatively steady there. The next 3 slides are the really good news. So the first slide here is revenue composition for your governmental funds. So this is everything except for food service and any student activity monies, things like that. So revenue went from $180 million last year. It's up about $17 million this year for the June 30, 22 year. Your local sources is up about $10 million. That's your biggest revenue source. And over $100 million of that is real estate taxes. The real estate taxes went from about $104 million to $111 million. So about a $7 million gain there. Some of that is a millage increase, some of that is assessment increases, but an extra $7 million of revenue there. EIT is up $1 million, went from 9.1 to 10.1 million, so roughly 12, 13% increase there. I can't explain it. Again, every client I go to, I tell them EIT is up another 10%. It's just, it's been a gift that keeps on giving. Same with transfer taxes. Transfer taxes are up $500,000. So when you add up all those different tax increases, that really helped the local source revenue come up about $10 million. State source revenue was up $3 million, went from $53 million to $56 million. Biggest chunk of that was basic ed subsidy from the state, was up about $1.5 million. Special ed subsidy from the state was up $600,000. And then the last bucket, your federal funding, it's up about $3 million, and that's going to be related to a lot of that COVID ESSER money that's finally starting to get spent by your district. So again, overall revenue is up $17 million. On the expense side, expenses are actually down a little bit. Expenses went from $186 million last year to $182.7 million this year. Instruction expense is down about $6 million. Going through the numbers, it really looked like a lot of that was related to some of the charter schools. It looked like there was less charter school expense this year compared to the prior year. Support services did go up, $36 million up to $38.5. Building services expenses were up about $1.2 million, so that's your maintenance and supply costs. And transportation was up about $1.4 million. The other bucket, which is sort of some student activities, facilities, debt service, was really flat year on year, around $14 million. So revenues up $17 million, expenses down $4 million. So when we get to the next slide, which is fund balance, which is really, to me, speaks to the health of a school district. So what fund balance is that if you took all your debts, paid them off with your assets, what you're left over with. The general fund, which is the blue line there, this had been negative for the last 2 years. So you had more liabilities than you had assets when we looked at the general fund. And it was about $1.5 million negative 2 years ago, $1.5 million negative this year. It's up to $16 million in the black. For sort of a frame of reference there, the two analytics I always do is, what is that as a percentage of your annual expenses? It's about 8%. And what is that as far as, if you didn't have any money coming in, how long could you pay the bills for? It's about a month. It's still a little low. Personally, I like to see around 2 months, but $16 million in the black is definitely better than $1.5 million in the red, which is where it's been the last couple of years. The orange line there is your other governmental funds. This is your capital reserve and capital project funds. 2 years ago, that was $2.9 million. You did go out and you got $20 million of new bond money last year. So last year fund balance was just over $20 million. That dropped down to $16.8 million this year, and that's because you're starting to spend that money on capital projects, which is why you borrowed the debt in the first place. And then the final line is the gray line there. It's a little hard to tell. It's pretty close to the blue line the last 2 years, but that's your food service fund balance. That was a negative $2.3 million the last 2 years. Doesn't look significant, but I think it is significant. That's now a negative $1 million, so you cut your deficit by more than half. The reason for that is during this last school year, all meals were subsidized by the federal government. So I've seen that in every district I work with, that, in a lot of cases they had it in the red, and finally went into the black. But you did gain about $1.3 million from that program. So I think that's all good, positive news from a fund balance perspective. I do have another graph underneath that, which is net position. This is sort of like fund balance, but this includes all long-term assets and long-term liabilities. So you can see it's negative $175 million, but the reason for that is you've got huge PSER liabilities and OPEB liabilities in there that bring it down. But it did go up about $25,000, $30,000 because of that drop in your PSER's liability. So the fact that that line is climbing is a good thing. The next graph, bonds and notes payable. It's really pretty flat year on year. I know it looks like a big drop, but it really went from about $182 million down to high 181 millions. The reason for that is because of the debt that was refunded last year. I think it was about $100 million of debt refunding. It sort of kicks the can down the road a little bit as far as principal payments. So for this year, principal payments were only about $2.2 million. Next year, that's going to be closer to $12 million, so we are going to start to get back in that principal payment cycle, but that's the reason there's really not a lot of decrease here. It's just the timing of the payment schedules on the new debt. And the last page here is just something I like to put in for all the boards that I've talked to, and some of the stuff we do in the background. We do use a data extraction analysis. You like this one? I haven't put this one in a presentation before, so you'll like this one even more. We do a variety of data analytics. We take the entire general ledger from the business office. That's every individual revenue expense transaction for the entire year. We put it into this software system. Lets us analyze the data in a bunch of different ways. One of our favorite things to do is the Benford's Law table. What that law says is any large randomly occurring population of numbers, the first digit will be 1 about 30% of the time, then it drops off. I've never done that test. I've done it hundreds of times. I've never done that test that had an issue. So what we then do is we do two digits, which is what this table is. This is actually your data for the 21-22 year. And we go by, are the first digits 11, whether that's $11 and change, $100, $10, 1,100, whatever it is. As long as the first 2 digits are 11, we do that all the way up to Fund 99. And that's when we tend to get some spikes, and you'll see on here, we had a few that were in the yellow or the red, and what we'll do then is we'll aim some of our testing here. Just to look, make sure that there is a valid reason that an unusual amount of transactions start with, in this case, I think it's like 18 and 23 and 33. So we do do some analysis on that. We look at it, we test it. A lot of times, I think almost every one of these cases, it's related to recurring payroll amounts that happen every 2 weeks or withholding tax or something like that. So we did investigate that, no issues there. Some of the other things we do pivot table analysis. We take your data, lay it out month to month, look for any unusual peaks and unusual values, try to figure out why those things occurred because we've done your audit for a number of years. We can also compare in any expense account what happened in May 22 compared to May 21 and May 2020. And again, looking for unusual trends to sort of aim our testing at. We do predictive analytics before we even start your audit. We'll look at the last 4 or 5 years of data based on trends, come up with what we think this year is going to look like, and then when we finally get the books, compare what we thought was going to happen to what actually happened. And again, if an expense account comes up too high or too low, we'll do some testing there to figure out, why was our expectation wrong. W-2s, I mentioned that earlier. We look at every employee's W-2 compared to last year. Make sure there's no janitors making $250,000. Had that happen once. Just make sure that there's no abuse of overtime, things like that. Journal entry testing, we'll look at journal entry tests. Journal entries that are made manually by the business office, make sure everything's properly approved, makes sense, that the usual way that disbursements and receipts should be entered in the system aren't circumvented. We'll look at vendors, employee analysis. We'll look for any duplicate payments, make sure that no invoices are getting paid twice, things of that nature. So the key here is we're not coming in and looking at the same expense accounts every year. We're not looking at the same vendor accounts every year. It's a data-driven, risk-based approach. So I always like to point that out because, the revenue side, we confirm a lot of that. We confirm a lot of the taxes. We confirm a lot of your grants. The balance sheet, we confirm cash and debt with the banks. Expenses are really hard to do that. So I always like to point out what we're doing on that side of that. So with that, again, I think it was all really good news. Really appreciated the business office this year. Did a great job getting everything to us. We didn't have many adjustments. It was a really clean audit. So I'd be happy to field any questions.
You're right, that's good news. Thank you. Thank you, Lori. And to Lori's team, thank you.
Ms. Mills, just a quick comment, if I may. When you're sitting up here, there's 2 magical words you always want to hear: clean audit.
Yep.
Yes.
So that's great news. Let's go back to the fund balance.
Sure.
I'd like you to repeat a statement for me. 1.5 million in the negative to 16 million in the positive.
Yes.
Let me hear you say that again.
Last 2 years, we're 1.5 million in the red. You're now 16 million in the black.
And that was the goal, to get in the black.
Well, and quite honestly, Dr. Dunlap, correct me if I'm wrong, we were kind of hoping that we'd get to $1.5 million, 2 million, 2.5 million, correct?
That's correct, but, it's a great thing that,
However,
but you're still going to have to decide, as I said a couple weeks ago, what you're going to do to bring down your debt, what you're going to do to establish some positions, or what you're going to do with a little bit of that money. And then importantly, as a board, decide how you get to that 1.4, 2.5 left in your fund balance. But you have a number to choose. But you'll hear tonight in the budget presentation that, you have some other things to consider, but you're in a much better spot to be able to make those decisions right now going forward. So I can't say enough about Lori Diefendorfer and her team and the work that they do, keeping us on track with budget spending. I will tell you that every time we go into a meeting and someone wants to talk about spending money, she's right there questioning you like a CIA agent with a light bulb over your head and a water pitcher in her hand. But she is keeping us on track, and that's real important. So thank you.
Thank you.
So Dr. Dunlap, understand that that's not lost on this board, and I appreciate you making that comment. It doesn't make us rich by any means. We've got a lot to do. I understand that. Two other phrases that you like to hear. Revenues are up, expenses are down. And Dr. Dunlap stole my thunder a little bit, Ms. Diefendorfer, but I've seen that side of you, and I know what he's talking about. But it's a tribute to your leadership in your department and all of those who work for you. So on behalf of the board, thank you. And thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Good night. Thanks. I am now moving on to the next presentation, RBC Capital Markets, LLC, financing options for master facilities plan. We have Brian Bradley, Michael Lillies, and Daniel. Is Dan here? No.
Up there, over here.
Dan,
I get to put them through, which I guess, okay. I'll wing it.
are they bring up the next presentation?
Barb,
Do I-
can you bring that up for them?
It's on this screen.
We just don't have it yet.
Oh, it's just not, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't want to press any
No,
buttons.
don't push it.
I apologize.
No, no, you're good.
I'm going to stop that for a minute. Here. Here. Oops. This. Okay. Yep. Okay.
Good, we have,
Follow arrows. Good evening. We should look familiar. I'm sure you're tired of seeing us. First and foremost, I want to say congratulations on the fund balance. That's actually exceptional, and it means a lot for what we're about to talk about with respect to bond issues. If you recall...
could you move the microphone just a tad
Oh,
closer?
I'm sorry. I apologize.
Thank you.
If you recall, we were here at the January board meeting, and at that time, we were talking about three specific options. That's A1, A2, and option B. They were specific amounts with specific timing with respect to the borrowing. On the tail end of that meeting, there was some discussion that the board was going back with Schrader and going to discuss some different amounts. So what I'm going to present to you today is those other options that we were tasked with showing you the millage impact for. I just want to, we've put them together in the same format as all those prior options for your ease of comparison with those prior options. I will say one thing, that was all prior to the discussion about fund balance. Those other options that we talked about, those were again specific. We were talking about doing a restructuring, and there was some capitalized interest involved in order to phase that in. Those were very specific plans. These are a little different. As you go through and you pick the amount that you're looking to finance, We'll again use those same tools like capitalized interest to mitigate that millage impact and phase it into equal amounts. These are just amounts, and they represent the millage impact of the project in and of itself. This whole process is a circular process. As we get amounts, those amounts then go back to Schrader. They develop their drawdown schedule and the timing, and then it comes back to us. And then we have a discussion with the administration and the board how to craft a specific plan. That's not what this is, just reflects those different amounts and what the cost of those projects alone are. There are some other tools we have at our disposal, like the capitalized interest that we had talked about in that specific A1, A2, and B plan. They're not incorporated here. And again, it's a creative, circular process that we work together on. So with that, we can get into it. I'm just going to give you a quick and update on the interest rate market. I only have 3 slides for this. I think they're they tell the best story for the market in and of itself. This is a close-up. This is the past 5 years of tax-exempt and taxable interest rates. As you can see, it's no surprise, interest rates have increased. I'm sure you've seen it, you've heard it, but the fact is, it's simply we're not in a zero interest rate environment anymore. Of course, interest rates were going to rise from the zero level they were effectively at 2 years ago. The next slide, and this is why I like these 3 slides together. This next slide pulls the camera back and looks at a 14-year view. If you really look, just taking that graph on the top left there, from a historical perspective, rates are accommodative, they're normal and appropriate. I know you've seen a lot about rising interest rates, but again, we're rising from basically zero, from a free money environment for the past couple of years. As you embark on these projects, we really are at a normal interest rate environment. The third slide, which, quite frankly, I'm not sure it's worth the paper it's printed on. This is the interest rate forecast from banks. I circled in green there. So our economist has been pretty accurate with what's gone on the past few years. And I just wanted to highlight this for you. The 10-year Treasury right now is a 3.37. He's forecasting a 3.35 at the end of 23 and a 3.15 for 24. Hopefully that comes true. The reason why I wanted to highlight it as you embark on these projects, it will, hopefully if it does come true, it portends 2 good things for you. It's his view on inflation, which will help your cost of the projects in and of themselves, and his view on interest rates in that environment. So he expects both interest rates and inflation to be subdued and costs to come down. So hopefully that portends good things for the district as you embark on these projects. Debt overview. I thought it'd be good. This is the first time I'm using these. I used green circles in here to draw your attention to some of the things I want to highlight. As I had alluded to before, there are some challenges and opportunities with the debt portfolio. The challenge is we hit peak debt service in 2028. The opportunity is that's only 5 years away from today. So in the near term, you're going to hit your peak, and then after that, you can see your debt service basically gets cut in half in 2032. The district has been very aggressive in their amortization of debt, which is very good. It means your principal amounts, aside from the restructuring we did last year, your principal amounts are amortizing very quickly. You have a very short average life in your existing debt portfolio. It's a very conservative way to structure debt, and the district has done that. This next one's going to be scary. Okay. So on the tail end of that meeting in January, the different amounts that we were looking at ranged from about 50 million to 200 million. We were tasked with running through roughly 14 scenarios. I am not going to go through 14 scenarios with you this evening. We picked out 3 scenarios, scenario 1, 3, and scenario 7 to go over. And I just want to make sure, I know I said it in the beginning, but I want to say it again. It doesn't include any capitalized interest. There is no restructuring. Again, as we move through the process, these numbers and the millage impact and all that's going to change as it evolves in concert with you working with Schrader and getting the timing of those drawdowns and the amount of those drawdowns. This is just to give you a view of approximately what that project is going to cost, that amount of a project is going to cost in the current environment. So scenario one, the three scenarios that we're going to run through, two of them have 3-year equal draws. It's 106 million and 200 million. And the third scenario is just for comparison purposes. That's 150 million with one draw. So I have 15 columns laid out for you. I'm not going to go over all the columns. I've, again, endeavored to highlight things in green, which are your takeaways. So column 6 is, that's peak debt service. That's where your peak debt service currently resides at 18.8 million with a $106 million project in 3 draws. And this is the dry, warm, and safe alternative, which is, I think that's what it's been referred to. That 106 million is an increase of debt of about $6.9 million from your current debt amount. And really the takeaway is column 11 there. It's the millage increase required for the $106 million alternative is about 2.27 mils. And if you look at that column 10, you can see your millage impact, 0.64 in the first year, 0.53, 0.54, 0.36, 0.21. What I was referring to with capitalized interest and phasing it in, that 2.27, we can do equal millage impact each year, which would be about 0.46 mils per year. I've used none of those tools to equalize it out or phase it in. This just reflects the cost of the project. Column 14, we thought it was important just to have the board keep its eye on the percentage increase required in the context of Act 1. We all operate in a world of Act 1. That's what that millage increase would reflect in terms of your Act 1 index. The other thing that was asked is to lay out the estimated fees for the transaction. And this is 3 separate draws. So this is about $35 million each, a bond issue in fiscal year 24, 25, and 26. The financing costs, which includes your underwriting, rating, legal, all told, that's $4.8 million. The vast majority, pretty much all of it, is your fixed costs. You can see aren't that significant. It's about $95,000 per transaction. The biggest fee is your bond insurance. We'll only use bond insurance if it's economical. Bond insurance is provided by a third party. What that enables you to do is up your rating on the bonds to a AA rating, which gives you better interest rates. Bond insurance is only used if it's economical. It's a third-party vendor. I have a very conservative estimate in here. It is higher than the amount we utilized, the fee last year, but I wanted to be conservative. I didn't know you were going to come in with a nice fund balance, so I was conservative in these figures. With respect to 1 draw or 3 draws, you can see, for this example, the $106 million over 3 draws, really the only thing that's repetitive is your fixed costs. And what you're talking about if you do it over 3 transactions is $200,000 on $106 million. It's not, the vast majority of your fees are based on a percentage of the par amount or the debt service. The only fixed costs and the duplicative costs are your ratings, your legal, those sort of things. So you're talking about, I wouldn't concentrate so much on draws because, again, you're talking about $200,000 on $106 million.
One thing I was going to add to that is that having 3 issues over 3 years helps with this phase-in of the millage impact. If you did 1 issue, you'd have to use capitalized interest, increase your bond proceeds to phase it in. So I think that's a significant benefit of having issue each year for 3 years.
That's a great point, Michael. It allows us some time to get over that 2028 hump that we have talked about when the district hits peak debt service. And to be quite honest with you, these are also RAP structures. The RAP structure is the most conservative school districts. Instead of amortizing debt for 30 years, we're filling it in as soon as debt falls off, so you're saving on interest expense over the life of the issue. And to Mike's point, you know, by phasing it out, we can get over that 2028 hump where we have some capacity for debt. In those regards, we wouldn't have to borrow more interest to pay for interest on the bond issue in order to phase it in.
And the RAP structure gives you the least amount of impact to your budget versus doing the level debt service. So that's, you know, I guess you alluded to that. Just want to make sure you knew that that structure is helping to reduce or minimize your budget impact each year.
So scenario 3 was $200 million. It was the dry, warm, and safe alternative, plus approximately $89 million for elementary school. It's obviously more costly. It's an additional, let's just call it $90 million. In this scenario, your peak debt service is $28 million, and you're looking over at column 11 there, highlighted and circled. It's 3.75 mils. And if we were to phase it in, it would be about 0.75 mils on an annual basis over that 5-year period. And the last scenario, as you can imagine, it kind of slaloms in between the 106 million and 200 million. It's 150 million in one draw. The peak debt service in column 4 there is about 25.7 million from current, and the cumulative mills needed is 2.95, which is about 6.6 mills on an annual basis. Again, you know, these amounts in this process, as the board decides, it goes back to Schrader, and they develop a plan with respect to timing, so that'll all reveal itself as we move through this circular process. But this gives you a kind of foundational idea of what the millage impact is for each of these amounts. More than happy to answer any questions. I know you guys have seen all these slides before and are probably tired of them.
Do we have any questions, comments?
Just want to thank Brian and Michael. Thank you for the work that you've been doing and keeping us moving forward with this process. We're definitely not finished with this. We still got a ways to go, but your help in this has been really strong for us. And every time we've come to you with a different scenario or a different variable that comes into play, you guys have been right there helping us through this process. So we really appreciate that. Thank you.
We appreciate it. It's been an absolute pleasure. And in all honesty, I'm very proud on that fund balance. It's fantastic. Seriously, it's fantastic. I know we were contemplating doing a restructuring as far as a year ago, and I'm very, very happy that you're not going to be doing that, to be quite honest with you.
So are we. It's a big deal. Thank you.
It is. It is. It's a very big deal.
So they're helping us figure out what the facilities master plan team has to spend and the path they're going to take. And we appreciate you keeping us straight on all that, and we'll get back to you.
Our pleasure. And again, you're welcome. And as I said last meeting, if there are any other scenarios or there's another vision with the numbers or how you want it structured, by all means, just reach out and we'll run them.
We'll definitely be in touch after Thursday night.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you.
Now we're moving on to our favorite presentation.
Barb, can you put the next PowerPoint up, please? Thank you.
Which is the budget update.
Let me just pull it up for you.
Good evening, school board directors and community members. Tonight, we want to give a brief update on our budget for the 23-24 school year. As we have shared on previous meetings, we've used this same roadmap to develop our budget, so we won't go through this again tonight. But the part that we are at right now is determining our personnel and then looking at our expenditures and revenues for 23-24. So what you see here is our expense projections for 23-24. Salaries and benefits are projected at $71.8 million. Purchase service at $109.5 million. Supplies at $6.1. Property at $3.6. Other objects at $8.3. And our debt service at $13.3. So right now, we are estimating a total of $212.9 million in expenditures for 23-24. Next, you'll see is our preliminary revenues for 23-24. Our local sources are estimated at $132.7 million. Our state revenues is at $63 million, and then our federal resources are at $9.1. So our total revenues, preliminary revenues at right now is $204.9. So you'll see that we currently have about a $8 million budget deficit that we will have to figure out how we're going to balance our budget. So we will have to look at all of our revenues and expenses again to see if there's any other areas where we can reduce that and not touch our fund balance too much. So I am going to hand it over to Dr. Dunlap to talk about our future considerations in our budget process.
Thank you, Lori. As we move forward in our budget planning, these are our future considerations that we must take into account. And again, taking a look at the master facilities plan, we've had several discussions relating to the district's aging infrastructure. Some of those discussions have included the need for making improvements to our existing buildings to make our schools safe, warm, and dry. At our last meeting in January, we were tasked with going back and looking at our master facility plan that took into consideration some new options, including building a new elementary school south of Route 30 and reconfiguring grades 6 through 8. Based on what we've been looking at with the Schrader Group, we've provided RBC various scenarios for funding these projects, which they just shared with us tonight. We sent out an update to the public on Friday, February 10th. Additionally, at our last meeting, we asked the board to provide us with a target range for borrowing of funds so that we can move forward with the progress that we have made relating to our master facility plan. We shared a few minutes ago that the overall range that the district now has the ability to borrow is between $0 and $200 million. Now, before I move on to talking about this borrow and the steps to do that, when we were talking about the fund balance in the earlier presentation, out of that fund balance, these are things that you also need to consider. Positions and programs that were covered by ESSERs that now need to come back into the fold. You still have 2 years for those positions. How are you going to structure that and prioritize those positions coming back? Cyber positions, the administrators on assignment, there's still a lot of work that has to be done in the area of curriculum that just can't fall on one person. Family liaison position, and then staffing positions. Some of these positions have come out of the comprehensive plan process. Some of these are looking at your current numbers for next year. So what are you looking at with an AEDY program, an alternative education program for disruptive youth? What are you looking at around the area of ESL? You'll see your numbers coming up when you start your staffing meetings with the administration board members. You're going to need at least minimum of 4 elementary positions next year. There's talk of through the comprehensive plan of a grant writer or a communications position. There's a request for a benefits specialist. There's also a request for another executive administrative assistant. The good news is there's a number of different options for you to consider now going forward with the scenarios that RBC presented tonight that provided us with the total debt service mills required, the annual millage impact, and the percentage of millage increase required. When they presented the information on the summary of alternatives for a draw, they talked about the best option right now is a multiple draw. The steps that the district needs to take in going forward with this is to borrow the maximum amount that you can. The option that you saw tonight was scenario 3, to fund these projects with 3 draws and wrap it into our existing debt. When you take a draw, automatically siphon some of that money off of the draw and reapply it right back to your debt, $5 to $7 million. That is going to help you bring down your debt, and it's going to increase your borrowing power for additional phases of this entire project. We are at a point where we're really going to need to start to pull out and put together a draw schedule of our projects. That is going to give more specific information on what we need to do to finance any type of facility improvements. You're also going to have to conduct an Act 34 hearing. For those of you that aren't familiar with an Act 34 hearing, it is commonly referred to as a Taj Mahal hearing. That hearing will tell you what your limitations are with your borrowing power to be able to build or renovate any existing structures that you have to stay within those numbers to be able to do this. We created an investment policy as well as reviewed and made some additions to our fund balance policy. Your investment officer is your business manager. You are going to have to officially appoint her as your investment officer and invest some of that debt or some of that borrow that you bring in within the school code limit. You need to bring on board next month in March liquid asset fund, primarily Mike Stramara, if he can't be here, at least have a report to share with you that if you invested money right now, what would that make you? And you're going to see how you're going to build financially to not only pay the debt, but be able to increase your borrowing power and imply investments back into other costs that you're going to be faced with to help keep those other draws down. If you choose scenario 3, it's going to allow you to get all the work done that you need to do with your existing buildings that are in use, keeping them warm, cool, safe, and dry for our students and staff. It's also going to allow you to start the process to build a brand new elementary school south of Route 30. This borrow pays for all of the work to be done in that 23-24 borrow. You take the capital from the earned investment and apply that against the borrow to complete a future middle school project. It's imperative that the Master Facility Task Force receive a verbal directive from the school board to continue their work based on a targeted lending of around $200 million. This directive from the board, while not binding, just because you agree for us to go in that direction tonight, doesn't mean that you are saying we are doing that. But this will not only give the Master Facilities Task Force the ability to move forward with their work, it will also give RBC parameters to look at a draw to support the middle school reconfiguration. This will provide a more solidified detail to the overall scope of the phases needed to support our facilities. These were the 2 best of the 14 options that we thought as an administrative team to recommend to the board, and it also shows you the worst case scenario of either going with option 3, which was wrapping the borrow into existing debt, or option 3A, which was to reapply that funding to take care of the debt through a level debt service. These two scenarios are a comparison of a $200 million borrow in three or not, but in our last presentation, I think we assessed a home that was around $122,000, give or take some money. What you're looking at here on this slide is a home that has an assessed value of $250,000. You know, not doing anything for so many years has put us in this position. The people sitting on this stage tonight will have to make a decision about the future of our schools. However, every single one of us is accountable for this decision. And if we do not make our current old, outdated facilities will continue to fall down around our students and staff. This sample of the impact that scenario 3 will have on a taxpayer with a home at an assessed value of $250,000 and a homeowner that has an assessed value of $250,000 will pay $10,304.75 in property taxes based on the current millage rate of 41.219. The annual increase is the change each year from the current property tax of $10,304.75. For example, in 2023 to 2024, a homeowner's property taxes will go up by $227.50, with the increase in millage rate from 41.219 to 42.129. And in 2027 to 2028, a homeowner's property taxes will go up a total of $937.50, with the increased millage rate going from 41.219 to 44.969. Keep in mind, this increase only relates to debt service, and there could be an even bigger impact on our homeowners based on increased costs in other areas. Regardless, we still need to come up with a solution on the future of our facilities to support instruction for our students. This is the current millage rate, and we know it based on the Act 1 adjusted index, and it can possibly go up anywhere between 0 and 5.3%. As we continue to review our revenues and expenditures for the 23-24 school year and explore our options related to the master facility plans, I can't emphasize this enough. We all will need to make some tough decisions on any millage rate increases to support balancing our budget and the future facilities planning of the Coatesville Area School District. This next slide reflects a budget timeline with key dates that are upcoming. The board adopted a resolution to stay within the Act 1 index back in January. Over the next few months, we will continue to review our revenues and expenses, have discussions on balancing our budget as we look to adopt a preliminary budget in April, and our final budget in June. Going forward tonight, need to ask the question, is there any board member opposed to giving the Master Facilities Task Force permission to continue their work with a targeted number of $200 million? What that does for us, it allows us to continue on with the project knowing what it's going to cost us over a period of years of how these phases are structured. And it allows the draw schedule to be developed to see what you're going to have to do over the next 5 to 10 years for these projects. With that, at this point in time, I'll turn it over for any questions from board members.
So, Ms. Mills, again, if I may, to point of clarification for Mr. Dunlap's request this evening of the board. We have another committee that is working every bit as hard as the committee was in front of us tonight. And what he is asking for is approval from the board to allow them to continue their work under the circumstances that were presented to us tonight. This is not a binding vote of any kind. That committee deserves to know what direction they should continue with. And again, that committee has put in every bit as much time as the Comprehensive Plan Committee. So what we are looking to do is express your opinion moving forward as to where you would like to see that committee go.
That's correct. And to emphasize more about that this is not binding tonight, this whole process will be built into your budget. You may decide a month from now that you want to grant that borrow or whatever that borrow is going to be, which you can do, but this will be tied in to your annual budget that you're going to approve in May.
And as you said, Dr. Dunlap, there is a multitude of decisions to be made, crucial decisions to be made. But again, this evening, I'll say one more time, this is not a binding vote. We are just giving some direction to the Facilities Committee so that they can move forward with their work.
Correct.
I, for one, agree to that they should move forward.
I agree to move forward.
I agree. I have concerns, but for now, I can agree, and we can talk about it later.
I can't agree to the 200 million.
I still want to see my solar, but I agree. Solar in the school.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. And I'm going to move on to agenda items. A, recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the financial statements, bills payable list as presented. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Call for the vote?
Ms. Mills, can you give me 1 second?
Oh, I was too quick.
Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
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 B, approval of independent audit. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors accept the audit for the fiscal year ending June 30, 2022, as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Call for the vote?
Yes.
Yes.
And yes. C, Chester County Tax Collection Committee, TCC Delegate Appointment Resolution. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the TCC Delegate Appointment Resolution, which appoints Lori A. Diefendorfer as the primary voting delegate, Pamela Kiley as the first alternate voting delegate, and Catherine Lark as the second alternate voting delegate to the Chester County Tax Collection Committee as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Call for the vote.
Yes.
Yes.
And yes. Okay, now D. Schrader Group, additional services for public master facilities planning process. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the additional services fee from the Schrader Group estimated at $24,540 for their efforts associated with the public master facilities planning process from October 22 through May 2023, as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Call for the vote?
Yes.
Yes.
And yes. E, Valbridge Property Advisors, quote for appraisal. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the quotation from Valbridge Property Advisors to provide an appraisal of district-owned property located at 1445 East Lincoln Highway for an estimated cost of $3,500 as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion?
Second.
Call for the vote?
Yes.
Yes.
And yes. F, Notable Inc., CAMI, Professional Development Renewal. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the license fee for Notable Inc., CAMI for the annual renewal of its professional development program, which includes an experienced teacher and CAMI expert at the total cost of $14,625 for the term of June 30, 2023 through June 29, 2024, as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion?
Second.
Call for the vote?
Yes.
Yes.
And yes. G, Border Audio Systems Rental Agreement for Graduation Ceremony 2023. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the quote for the Border Audio Systems, Inc. for rental, delivery, and pickup of audio equipment for the 2023 graduation ceremony at a total cost of $516 as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion?
Second.
Call for the vote?
Yes.
Yes.
And yes. H, Collective Event Group, rental agreement for graduation ceremony 2023. Can't believe it's February, we're doing all this already. Just around the corner. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the agreement with the Collective Event Group to rent 1,200 folding chairs at a total cost of $6,632 for the Coatesville Area Senior High School, as well the Chester County Technical College High School, TCHC, 2023 graduation ceremony as presented. Please note, TCHC has agreed to share half of the rental cost, lowering the final total cost to CASD to $3,316. Do I have a motion?
Motion?
Second.
Call for the vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I, Taylor Rental Agreement for Senior Cookout 2023. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the agreement with Taylor Rental for the rental of a BBQ grill, propane, and both pickup and delivery service to be used for the senior cookout on June 5th, 2023, as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion?
Second.
Call for the vote?
Yes.
Yes.
And yes. J, Elite Coach Charter Bus Service Agreement. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the Elite Coach Charter Bus Service Agreement in the amount of $1,350 for the Coatesville Athletic Leadership Council to attend the Fit to Lead Student Athlete Leadership Conference in March 2023 as presented. Please note that the conference organizers may reimburse CASD in part or all of the transportation costs. Motion?
Motion?
Second.
Call for the vote?
Yes.
Yes.
And yes. K, Shutterfly Life Touch Service Agreement, Reesville Elementary School. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the service agreement between Life Touch and Reesville Elementary School for the school years 2023-2026. Programs to be provided include fall individuals and spring individuals as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion?
Second.
Call for the vote?
Yes.
Yes.
And yes. L, Shutterfly Life Touch Service Agreement, East Fallowfield Elementary School. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the service agreement between Life Touch and East Fallowfield Elementary School for the school years 2023-2026. Programs to be provided include fall individuals and spring individuals as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion?
Second.
Call for the vote?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. M, Shutterfly Life Touch Service Agreement. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the service agreement between Life Touch and Cyber Academy for the school years 2023-2026 Programs to be provided include fall individual and spring individuals as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Call for the vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. N, Shutterfly Life Touch School Studios, Reeseville Elementary Commission Check. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve a commission check from Shutterfly Life Touch School Studios for a total of $424.33 to Reeseville Elementary School for the Fall Individuals 2022-2023 program as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Call for the vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. O, Shutterfly Life Touch School Studios, Scott, 6th grade center commission check. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve a commission check from Shutterfly Life Touch School Studios for a total of $446.14 to Scott 6th grade center for the Fall Individuals 2022-2023 program as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Call for the vote.
Yes.
Yes.
And yes. P, Shutterfly Life Touch School Studios cash commission check. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve a commission check from Shutterfly Life Touch School Studios for a total of $1,200 to Coatesville Area High School for the Fall Individuals 2022-2023 program as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Call for the vote.
Yes.
Yes.
And yes. Q, Shutterfly Life Touch School Studios Cash Senior Prestige Portrait Commission. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve a commission check from Shutterfly Life Touch School Studios for a total of $3,555.81 to Coatesville Area High School for the Senior Prestige Portrait 2022-2023 program as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Call for the vote.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. R, Air Base Carpet Mart Lomax. Air Force Junior ROTC and Marching Band Program donation. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the donation from Air Base Carpet Mart Lomax of $500 for the Air Force Junior ROTC program and $500 for the Marching Band program as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Call for the vote.
Yes.
Yes, and thank you to Lomar.
And yes. S, Linda Ladier, donation of K-12 books. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the donation from Linda Ladier of several boxes of K-12 books valued at approximately $500 as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Thank you for this donation of books. I'm sure they're going to be appreciated. And I'd like to call for the vote.
Yes.
Yes.
And yes. T, approval of resolution. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the resolution for statement of charges as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Call for the vote.
Yes.
Yes.
And yes. U, Human Resources, Summer Clerical Support Position. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the creation of one summer clerical staff position to support the Human Resources Department from June 12th through August 30th, 2023, recurring yearly if budget allows as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Call for the vote.
Yes.
Yes.
And yes. V, Human Resources Full-Time Benefits Specialist. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the creation of one full-time benefits specialist position to support the Human Resources Department as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Call for the vote.
Ms. Mills, before we call for the vote, just a quick question, please. We currently do not have a full-time person? We still have the part-time person? Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yep. Call for the vote.
No.
No.
Yes. W, Human Resources Report. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the resignations, appointments, new positions, leave of absence, transfers, change of status and corrections as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion?
Second.
Call for the vote?
Yes.
Yes.
And yes. There are informational items posted on the board docs, and you're welcome to review them. And I adjourn the Finance Committee meeting at 8 p.m. Or am I missing one? Oh, I forgot. Okay. Is there any old business? New business? Do we have public comment? I was trying to move it along. Thank you. Lori Shannon Bailey.
Good evening. Just a few comments about the comprehension plan. Overall, I think it's very, very extensive and detailed. It's over 55 pages, which is a long read. I'd like to ask the board's consideration to invite the public to be a part of the equity team. I saw that equity is one of the district's challenges. I agree with that. I think that's a worthy challenge. Equity is a huge word. Please consider inviting any community members other than district teachers and administrators and district personnel who are interested. Reviewing the Safe School Report, I think that's another great suggestion. I would like to know, one of the recommendations was to invite the director of Safe Schools. Would that person be from PDE? Or somewhere else in Harrisburg, or do we have a director of safe schools here? That's one question. Analyze student data, or analyze student discipline data. That's another great initiative. I would like to know what is the goal in doing that. It's my understanding that the discipline is connected to the school code of conduct. So I'm wondering what your end goal is in that regard. Moving on to the HR report. In terms of our finances, I see that we are not necessarily finances, but finances in the sense that we will be needing to hire additional teachers. We are losing 2 special education teachers, 1 to retirement. We're losing a STEM teacher, a math teacher, and a math teacher is on a leave of absence. So as you make decisions about the budget, please be mindful that those positions will need to be filled, which will also be a financial concern. Again, lots of information in the comprehensive report. Kudos to the committee for putting that work together. And in terms of the budget presentation, $78 million is a lot of money for salaries. Please be mindful of salaries that are not connected to student learning. I did see from the state we have $63 million. That's a lot of money. Please be mindful of the need to help our students increase PSSA scores and things of that nature. So really, let me close by saying, please keep focus on a student-centered district. You all know how critical it is. Every child deserves a world-class education. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next meeting is Tuesday, March 14th, 2023. I adjourn the meeting for the Finance Committee at 8:04. Now I'd like to call to order the Education Committee meeting. Our first order of business is approval of the minutes. Recommended action, approval of the January 10th, 2023 Education Committee meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Call for the vote?
Yes.
I see we have one presentation. It will be Compass Mark. Terry Miller Landon is with us. Welcome.
afternoon, and happy Valentine's Day. So I'll just get started while we're pulling up the PowerPoint. So Compass Mark, our mission is in addiction prevention. So my name is Terry Miller-Landon. I'm the Director of Programs. We provide school-based programs in Chester County as well as in Lancaster County and Lebanon County. And so the first picture that's on that slide are the 3 staff that we have providing school-based programs in Chester County. Thank you so much. No, that's great, thanks. So they are deeply committed to the mission of addiction prevention, and they're deeply committed to the kids. We're pretty thrilled to have them on staff. So beyond just school-based programs, just FYI, Compass Mark does provide addiction resources throughout the communities. We've been on some news programs. We go to health fairs. We're really looking to help the community really understand what addiction prevention is about and how it benefits students. So what you'll see on the slides, there's a lot of information. I'm not going to go through it. It's just, should you want more information, it's there and available for you to review. I'm just going to quickly go through an overview. So, excuse me, what we're looking to do with addiction prevention, of course, we don't do the old school scared straight DARE programs. We do things that the evidence and the research tells us are effective for addiction prevention, and that is digging into social and emotional learning skills. That is prevention. So we're not going into a 3rd grade classroom and say kids don't do drugs. That would be silly. We're going into those classrooms to really help enhance those protective factors and minimize those risk factors. So those protective factors being healthy relationships, good decision making, goal attainment, setting and attainment. Because what the research tells us, if we can strengthen those skills in our youth, that leads to addiction prevention, and that's what we're trying to do. In addition, as you can see from this slide, it is also helping with other school issues. So it can help with things related to truancy, to behavior problems, to academic achievement. So the whole idea of social emotional learning and addiction prevention really just kind of peppers throughout a student's life. So what we're looking to do for Coatesville is some full classrooms as well as some small groups, and I'll just talk briefly about what we're hoping to do. Positive action, we have done positive action in the past for Coatesville. We have curriculum kindergarten through 12th grade. We're focusing, I believe, 3rd, 4th, 5th, as well as 6th grade. So positive action is those problem areas I just talked about. It is skill building, and it is the hopes of addressing some of those things that lead to, then again, addiction prevention. We're also looking to start, this will be the first year for Coatesville that we'll be doing SET, which is our support for students exposed to trauma. This is a non-clinical group that is above our paid grade, and that is for the clinicians. This is instead a group that focuses on those risk factors. We just look specifically at how students deal with anxiety and nervousness, withdrawal, isolation, depressed mood, acting out, those things that we know can happen because of trauma. And that is a 10-week curriculum, small group. So catch my breath. This one and the next one I'll be talking about skills for life I'm particularly excited about. So we know for vaping that this has been a huge issue. Catch My Breath is a vaping education curriculum. I steer away from saying anti-vaping because we're not doing a scared straight. This is about helping students understand what is entering their bodies. We help talk about the commercialization of vaping, how people selling these products are manipulating them, and really helping them to understand what vaping is all about. But we've also been working, so this will be in the high school, we've also been working with the high school because we want to talk about policy violators as well. And what do we do about that? How do we actually change the behavior? And so we'll be adding this year, this is why I'm particularly excited, this is a program that we do for Lancaster County. This will be the first time we're doing it in Chester County. And this is our efforts to try to support your district in these problem areas and with policy violators. So the thought process is that we do the Catch My Breath curriculum at the high school in full classrooms so that all the kids, or most of the kids, will be getting that type of education. For policy violators, then after school, we will be doing the Skills for Life. So this is where we take a deeper dive with those students into how to make different decisions, how to really increase their knowledge about substance use and abuse, resiliency, relationships, continuing the discussion about how to say no. In addition, I'm also doing a deep dive right now with trying to find information on vaping cessation programs, because we also want to give those kids options that if this is effective, and I think it can be, and they decide they want to try to quit, it's not always that easy depending on the heaviness of use. And so we're also looking to pair those kids up with potential cessation programs. So those are the other areas we're looking at. The cost to this is nothing to the district. This is all covered through funding that Compass Mark receives through Chester County's Drug and Alcohol Services. And so this is something we can provide free of charge. So that's just a brief overview. Are there questions? Yeah.
I have some questions.
Sure.
I'm not sure if you'll be able to answer them.
Okay.
So my first question is, when does all this start?
So we can start as early as next week. So once the MOU is signed, we'll be working with the principals to find out exactly when we can get started.
And then how will all of these different programs that I was looking at your website as you were talking.
Mhm.
So how is this going to work for our students? So you talk about Catch My Breath, you talk about the other program.
Positive action.
Yeah, and the trauma one.
Mhm.
So what is that going to look like? How do our students get involved in that?
Sure. So for the full classroom groups, so Catch My Breath is in the sports medicine classes at the high school. So that would be full classrooms. The trauma group specifically, we work with the school counselors. We have certain criteria we're looking for, some exclusionary criteria. We want to be careful about certain traumas are not
Sure.
what this is supposed to be serving. And then we work with the school counselors to identify those students that are most in need of this type of a group. We do a lot of prep work in advance with the counselor just to make sure there's some safety parameters in place as well. And then we start the small groups with them. That is a 10-week, so once a week for an hour for 10 weeks.
And so for those full classrooms, is notification being sent home to parents, and if they want to opt their child out of it, are they able to?
So I'm going to defer possibly to Darian on that because I can't recall with the district how they, some schools opt to do a opt-out and some don't, so I'm not sure.
Craft a letter to send out to parents, and should they wish to opt the child out, they can certainly notify the principal.
Okay.
Good question.
Thank you. And then you talked about the Skills for Life, our policy ones, offenders. A couple questions with that. So you said it was after school. So Darian, this might be a question for you. Are we providing transportation for those students? Is this going to be mandatory for these students to go, and when does it go into effect? Is it like when they get suspended, is it for in lieu of suspension? Like kind of what is that going to look like?
Yes, it'll be used as an intervention, so potentially in lieu of a suspension, you will be required to participate in 5 sessions after school. There will not be transportation provided for those students.
So if they are required to go and they don't have transportation, then what happens?
They would need to move forward with the actual suspension.
So there's no way that we can move this program to like during lunch or some way maybe before school. I'm just trying, because some of our students, this could be great for some of our students, right? And so because they don't have transportation, we're kind of saying, no, now you have to take this suspension. So is there a way that we can think outside of the box to?
We can have some follow-up discussions with the campus principals relative to whether or not it could be an option during the school day, but I know schedule-wise it was, didn't work in,
Sure.
but certainly something we can look at further.
How long is that? Like, I know you said 5 sessions, but how long is a session? Like half hour, 45 minutes, and 45 minutes? Okay. That's all the questions I had. Thank you.
I have a question. So who would be implementing these programs in our school? I know you mentioned one of them being a part of the health classes at the high school. So would that fall under the responsibility of like the teacher, or is?
That is Compass Mark staff, yes. And in fact, actually for Skills for Life, because this is new for Chester County, but we've been doing it, I think, about 7 years in Lancaster, I'm actually having one of our Lancaster staff come up and provide his expertise and run those Skills for Life groups here.
Okay.
Yeah. But otherwise, it's all Compass Mark staff, yes.
Okay, and the staff, they are licensed counselors, they're licensed social workers, like what is their position?
They are not licensed. These are the programs that we do are all created by developers. They're all evidence-based curriculum. So we didn't create it, nor are they creating lesson plans or doing anything like that. They are simply taking the curriculum, we train them on it, help them understand the fidelity of it and the importance of that, and they're the ones delivering it. But they're bachelor degrees.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thanks very much.
Agenda item A, new program sponsorship, girls wrestling. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the sponsorship of girls wrestling within the Coatesville Area School District as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Call for the vote?
Yes.
And yes. B, request for public performance Meister Singers. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the public performance request for the Meister Singers to perform at the Spring Run Estates monthly community meeting as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Call for the vote?
Yes.
And yes. C, student teaching placements. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the student teacher placements as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Call for the vote?
Yes.
And yes. D, student nursing placements. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the placement of Immaculata University students from practical nursing program as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Call for the vote?
Yes.
Yes. E, school affiliation agreement, Alvernia University. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the school affiliation agreement with Alvernia University, which outlines the expectations for educational experiences for university students as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Call for the vote?
Yes.
And yes. School affiliation agreement, Villanova University. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the school affiliation agreement with Villanova University, which outlines the expectations for educational experiences for university students as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Call for the vote?
Yes.
Yes. G, field placement agreement, Westchester University. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the field placement agreement with Westchester University, which outlines the expectations for educational experiences in the area of social work for university students as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Call for the vote?
Yes.
And yes. H, career and technical education courses. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the Technical College High School TCHS to host career and technical education CTE courses at the Coatesville Area Senior High as presented. TCHS will host allied health, construction trades, and digital media and film. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
These are things that we talked about earlier during the comprehensive plan moving forward. Call for the vote?
Yes.
And yes. I, Algebra 1, two-year course proposal. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the course proposal for a two-year Algebra 1 course as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Call for the vote?
Yes.
And yes. J, News Bank License Agreement. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the News Bank license agreement and quote for a prorated subscription through June 2024 to Access World News Research Collection, Black Life in America, and America's historical newspapers in the amount of $9,510 as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
I had the opportunity to look at this site. It is good. It's first-hand news print. It's great for research. So let's call for the vote.
Yes.
And yes. K, confidential release and settlement agreement 100120095. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the confidential release and settlement agreement for student 100120095 as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Call for the vote?
Yes.
And yes. L, proposed expulsion 100129993. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the proposed expulsion for student 100129993 as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Call for the vote?
Yes.
And yes. M, independent educational evaluation 100178113. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the independent educational evaluation for student 100178131. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
I neglected to read the next part. Enclosed your pending legal review. Call for motion, and then I need a second. We're on letter M. Second, okay. Call for the vote?
Yes.
And yes. N, Compass Mark MOU. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the memorandum of understanding with Compass Mark, which outlines the facilitation of evidence-based prevention programs offered in CASD as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
And that's the presentation that we have here, and this is the moving forward on an MOU. Call for the vote?
Yes.
And yes. O, one district, one book quote approval. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the quote from Read to Them for the 2023 One District, One Book initiative in the amount of $14,879.25. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Call for the vote?
Yes.
And yes. P, overnight out-of-state trip request Raider Box. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the overnight out-of-state field trip request from the Raider Bots as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Call for the vote?
Yes.
And yes. The enrollment reports are posted on board docs. Do we have any old business? Any new business? Public comment? Thank you. Chelsea Campos.
Hello, my name is Chelsea Campos, and I'm a senior on the Coatesville wrestling team. I started wrestling my junior year with my younger sister after I heard that Coach Boyer was starting a girls' team. There were a couple of girls that tried out, but most dropped out, boiling the team down to me and my sister. I believe that part of this reason was due to the nervousness and foreign environment. Being the only females on the team, our first season was difficult to say the least, but we persevered. Although most of the current girls are first years, we see great potential in them, and we know that an official girls team will create the opportunities that they deserve. Most of them have already won multiple matches, and some even have wrestled for varsity. Our achievements have proven that a girls team will thrive, and I assure you that we will achieve great things and win big for Coatesville. I believe that there are many girls like us that want to try wrestling, but haven't had the chance or confidence due to lack of an official team of resources. Over time, I've grown due to the values that wrestling has ingrained in me, and I've met some of my best friends through this sport. It's given me an amazing sense of independence and strength. I wish to have the capacity to inspire middle school and elementary girls that wish to try it. The opportunity of growth should not just be limited to boys. Until now, wrestling has been a boys' world where girls had no place. But I know that we will change that. Thank you.
And thank you.
Chelsea, before you walk away, first and foremost, to you and that's your sister with you?
Yes, this is my sister.
Thank you for your perseverance, because I saw you come in about 6 o'clock this evening. So you've waited 2.5 hours for your comment. But all joking aside, I had an opportunity a couple weeks ago to go to a wrestling match when you whooped up on Dr. Dunlap's former Westchester East team. And if you don't know, folks, we got a pretty darn good wrestling team. And I look forward to the districts and regionals and states for all the individual wrestlers. But I need to commend you on your courage, you and your sister both, to participate on the boys' team. And it's time for a girls' team, and it's something that is becoming more prevalent throughout the state. So I'm only one vote, but you certainly have my vote. So great job, and I got to see one of the two of you wrestle, I think, at the meet against Westchester East.
I believe it's her.
Okay, all right, and you did a great job, dear. Yeah, and Miss Seagreaves, you're like the mom of all the Booster Clubs, right? But thank you for everything you do, and thank you for bringing the girls here this evening. And I'm behind you. Let's get a girls' wrestling program.
Thank you so much.
Yep, they're pioneers. We have pioneers.
Thank you.
Robin Seagraves.
So Mr. Fisher pretty much explained why I'm here. Just having two boys on the boys wrestling team, as long as they could like roll around on a mat. It wasn't always accepted really to have girls, and a girl would come and you'd be like, what the heck is this? You know, my husband, what the heck is this? He coached here at Coatesville. He coached the youth program his whole life pretty much. And then watching these girls do this sport is unbelievable, and I played sports, and they're way tougher than I ever could have been. That is a very humbling sport. And not only did they come in and embrace it, the camaraderie of the girls together, it's like nothing I've ever seen. They are just this family of supporters. When one wins, they all win. When one loses, they all lose. And so I'm obviously here to support them and have hopefully a girls wrestling program, since the PIAA just sanctioned it. So let's get some girls to states next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Lori Shannon Bailey.
Good evening. I was really impressed with the Compass Mark presentation. I'm wondering if you can put that on the website for the public to take a look at it. It's very extensive and very detailed. I was particularly impressed with the vaping initiative. Please consider putting this information on the website so that the community and parents and stakeholders can be aware of this program, and also can educate their children about the importance of what the program is going to be doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next meeting is Tuesday, March 14th, 2023. I adjourn the Education Committee meeting at 8:29.
In the absence of Mr. Rohn this evening, I will pinch hit for him as the chair of the Operations Committee, and Mrs. Surest will join us as well. So first order of business is to call to order the meeting. Agenda item 2A, approval of the minutes. Recommended motion. Approval of the January 10th, 2023 Operations Committee meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Call for the vote?
Yes.
And yes. Presentations, 3A, technology update.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Good evening. I'll wait for the slide deck to come up. It should be up shortly. You guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, so I just wanted to give you a brief department update. First off is the staff laptop refresh. We've been speaking with a few finance companies, and we have proposals for 650 laptops. These would be for the teachers and administration. Current laptops are 5 to 6 years old and are on their last legs. What we're proposing, or we will propose, would be a beefier laptop, a little more RAM, a little more memory. We're getting to the point where we're starting to get more and more applications that we need to run on these things. So as we start making decisions on that, we'll bring those through. We're also looking at the server refresh. I think Dr. Dunlap mentioned last meeting our servers are in desperate need of replacement. We did meet with an E-rate consultant and a company called Network Connection. We'd like to see how much we can get through grants via E-rate, but we know that the servers are something that needs to be, things like eSchool and our camera systems and everything else are running on those, and they're just limping along. We've got to get them taken care of. The Wi-Fi controller refresh. We're looking at two things here. We have all the access points within the district, and there's a lot of them, which would be very expensive to replace. We also have the controller, which would also benefit too. We can do both at the same time, which would be, like I said, would be costly, or we can do the controller first and swap out access points down the road. So it's one thing we're looking at moving forward. Lastly is something called CrowdStrike. I don't know if anybody's familiar with it, but it's ransomware threat detection. So we have to make sure that we're obviously safe from ransomware, those types of attacks on the district. So far, so good, but we want to obviously make sure we're protected. Quick Chromebook update. Last time I was in front of the board, I shared this project plan. I know it's very, very tough to read, but you've seen it before. This was basically starting out with the ninth grade distribution and ending up with the third grade distribution. We have completed this. So the 1,500 new Chromebooks have been deployed. We do have close to 800 spares. Those will be used for loaners. So when a student has a laptop or a Chromebook in repair, we have a loaner to give them. Just to give you a quick update, we have about 80 in repair currently. That number fluctuates. It's probably changed since this slide was created. We also have been working with IT Savvy, and that is our insurance company. I've mentioned before that the repair process, the lead times for the repairs were not fit for purpose, I guess. So we've been working with them. They have promised at the beginning of this calendar year that they were going to get better. We have seen some improvement. It's not exactly where we want. We want them around the 18 to 20 day, in and out of the door. They're around 25, 26 days, better than there were, which was over 30, but still not where we needed to be, as I mentioned. We also spoke to them about improving the shipping process. We're seeing a few Chromebooks come back in not as. I'm worried about the way they're shipping them. So what we've done is we worked with the company, and they're sending us Pelican boxes now. We're not going to lose any. Chromebooks within shipments. So I think we're a little bit better off there. Want to mention the handbook. We do have a new process that was agreed upon. So there is a need to re-sign that handbook. That handbook is available online. It's also available within this, we can hand into the principals. It is important that it is re-signed. We have, as I mentioned, with the e-sign, there is it's a Microsoft form. The school administration does have access to that form, so they can look at it and see that, who's responded to it, who's signed, who has not. So we're going to start leaning on, some of the principals to assist us with, making sure that these one-to-one handbooks are signed. Lastly, inventory. The inventory accuracy is critical. I think we all know where we were and where we don't want to be again. So as we've been deploying these Chromebooks, we've been doing, cleaning up the inventory as we're going along. And I think we're getting to a point where we're going to be, pretty accurate with our inventory that we're cleaning up, and going forward, we're going to be spot on. So just wanted to mention that that's one of the things we're concentrating on. Changing the Chromebook procedure, this is an old slide, but I wanted to bring it up because it's important. Students are going to retain their Chromebooks. They're not going to give them back. They're going to keep them for the life of the Chromebooks. We're going to deploy in 3rd, 6th, and 9th grades, and those will go off. Will go on. We'll collect in 2nd, 5th, and 8th grade. So we'll have those to go back into loaner stock, and we'll redeploy new to the 3rd, 6th, and 9th each year. We do have mobile hotspots. They are available. It's a simple request through the service desk, and we can get you a hotspot. Lastly, the accountability is in accordance with the school board policy and regarding financial obligations. If you destroy a device intentionally, if there's vandalism, if there's loss, you will be financially responsible for it. It will be a financial obligation. That goes for devices, the Chromebook itself, the charger, and a hotspot if you elect to take one. And it also is applicable to the TIP, which is the insurance fee. So I believe, yeah, that's it. So are there any questions?
Any questions? So, I think I heard you right. You damage the Chromebook, it goes on an obligation, correct?
Yes.
Okay. That's good to know. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Moving on to agenda item 3B, Crossroads to Success. We have Mr. Curry, Mr. Galbraith, and Ms. George, it looks like.
Good evening. It's been a while since I've been out here, so I don't know if thought maybe a brief refresher on what we're trying to accomplish. I don't want to go too long, so I'll try. Give me a cut sign if I want too long. But this started back in September of 2021. A team of from Chester County went and attended a week-long training focusing on disproportionate minority contact or racial and ethnic disparities in the juvenile justice system. Based on statistics that we provided after the training, we saw in Chester County as a whole that there were disproportionalities primarily at the arrest and referral level, the placement level, and the detention level. So we chose to try to have an impact on the arrest and referral level. And again, across the whole whole county, there is disproportionality related to school-related offenses. So basically, the representation of youth of color in the schools are overrepresented in the referrals that come to our office from around the county. So Coatesville Area School District had the highest number of youth of color, so that was the school district we wanted to look at. There is, like I said, disproportionality around the county. If this program is successful in trying to reduce that disproportionality, we would hope to move it to other jurisdictions in the county. So what we're trying to do is reduce the number of youth who are referred to our office for low-level school-related offenses. So this is a diversion program. We have worked out an MOU with the school probably close to a year ago that identified the list of charges that would be considered for this diversion program. They are low-level misdemeanor and summary offenses that either would have gone to a district justice for a fine or come to juvenile probation. We applied for a grant last March, and part of the reason for the delay is that we did not find out that we had been approved for the grant until November. The grant is to fund a diversion project coordinator. We have posted the position. We are looking for we're looking for a master's in social work to coordinate this program. This person would be stationed at the school, ideally, and would be referred from the school resource officers when they commit these lower level offenses. And some examples would be a mutual fight, a simple assault, a possession of a weapon other than a gun, possession of paraphernalia or possession of drugs. These offenses, if they're first-time offenders and they're not active with our department in any way, would be eligible for this diversion program. They would meet with the social worker. The social worker would conduct assessments and either recommend that they get connected to community-based resources if it's significant, or they may recommend that they just follow a minor period of supervision by that coordinator. And essentially, if they successfully complete it, they avoid having a juvenile record of any kind or having any further penetration into the juvenile justice system. So that is the main part of the program. But in addition to that, our department is interested, if the school district is interested, in partnering on essentially what we would call prevention programming. We have historically been a reactive organization that doesn't get involved until a kid gets arrested and gets referred to us. But we have a number of programs that we administer to youth that may be a benefit to youth in the schools, even if they have not been formally arrested. These are things that I had presented previously. I have very short descriptions of them, but we have programs called Boys Council, Girls Circles. We have an anger management program. These are programs that my personal opinion is you do not have to have been charged with something to benefit from it. We have staff in our office that are trained to deliver those programs. The youth that are referred through the diversion program will be eligible for those programs. But if the school found them to be a resource that might be of benefit, for example, a youth is demonstrating anger problems in school, they haven't gotten arrested for anything or charged with anything, but there's a sense that they might benefit from an anger management program. We would like to be part of all of the efforts that we have seen you making to improve the culture in the school, and we might have some resources that could supplement that. If the school district's interested in that, we would be more than willing to try to provide those services. The primary program is a diversion program, but these other options are, we'd like to partner with the school district to see if there's anything that we can do to help your overall efforts to improve the culture in the school. So, we posted the position in January. We have had applicants, and interviews are scheduled for Monday, February 27th, and we hope to have the coordinator of that position named shortly after. So that's an update, probably maybe a little more than you wanted at this time of the evening, but that's the update. Is there any questions?
Any questions for Mr. Curd? Don, thank you.
Okay.
And we
will
look
obviously
forward to the hiring of that coordinator's position.
Okay, and we will obviously need to be ready to meet and get this thing started, so appreciate it.
Thank you, Don. Moving on to agenda items. Agenda item 4A. Recommended motion that the Board of School Directors approve the FMX quote in the amount of $1,491.88 with a one-time fee for implementation and training of $754.94 for a total of $2,246.82 for a utility tracking module to track the utility costs throughout the district as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote.
Yes.
And yes. Moving on to agenda item 4B. Recommend a motion that the Board of School Directors approve the contract with the CCIU to provide a review of cyber/charter school enrollments for the past 5 years. The total cost of this service will be $10,000, 125 hours at a rate of $80 an hour as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Are there any questions or comments? Seeing none, call for the vote.
Yes.
And yes. Agenda item 4C. Recommend a motion that the Board of School Directors ratify the proposal from Northeast Stage for the repair of the Scott Stage curtain rigging that was damaged during the December 2022 freeze/flood in the amount of $11,900 as presented. This cost will be covered by the insurance claim as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, call for the vote.
Yes.
And yes. Agenda item D, recommended motion. Pending legal review, that the Board of School Directors approve the amendment to the current transportation contract to provide more funding for driver wages as presented. This will allow the Coatesville Area School District to be more competitive with surrounding school districts and minimize driver turnover. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
And Dr. Dunlap, I believe this is in reference to some of our surrounding school districts raising the rates for their drivers and putting us in an adverse position where we're already short on bus drivers, correct?
That's correct.
So this is in an effort to get us competitive with the other districts that are competing for those same bus drivers. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, call for the vote.
Yes.
And yes. Agenda item 4E, recommended motion. That the Board of School Directors approve the long-term agreement with the Cowan Little League of the Coatesville area as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
And I believe, Dr. Dunlap, these are for the fields surrounding Cowan Elementary School, as we have done for a long period of time, correct?
That's correct.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, call for the vote.
Yes.
And yes. Agenda item 4F, recommended motion that the Board of School Directors approve the purchase of 2 Ford F-250 pickup trucks at a cost of $47,225 per vehicle to replace school district vehicles that are no longer operational, and 1 Ford F-250 Transit cargo van at the cost of $46,797 to replace the current school district mail van from New Holland Auto Group through Pennsylvania's Cooperative Purchasing Program, CoStars, contract number 13-034. Total amount for 3 replacement vehicles is $147,247 as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
And I assume that this is out of the operational budget?
Yes.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, call for the vote.
Yes.
And yes. Agenda item 4G, recommended motion that the Board of School Directors approve the quote from Quality Door Service for the removal and installation of a new double door for the gym at Cowan Elementary School in the amount of $7,060 as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none, call for the vote.
Yes.
And yes. There are no informational items. Is there any old business? Any new business? Seeing none, public comment. Lori Shannon Bailey.
Good evening. Regarding the technology report. I'm advocating for a family with two children. One has an IEP, two has an IEP actually. They do not have Wi-Fi. And in light of the district's decision to close on Friday, I'm just wondering what can be done to accommodate the family because they will need Wi-Fi to do the school work on Friday.
And I just heard in that report we have hotspots available, is that correct? That is correct. All right, and how can one receive those?
I have them in the admin building. It's a matter of if we put a request and I can help see if the order, or I'll talk to you right after.
Thank you, thank you.
Is he going to talk to you or going to talk to me? Oh, just need to be clear. Thank you very much for that. This family, I'm not sure what happened to their Wi-Fi, but anyway, so thank you for that because that's great. So the presentation from Don Corey, I'm not sure if Don's still here, if he left, but Don and I have been colleagues for a number of years. I'm very impressed with the opportunities for partnership, especially in hearing our school district has the highest number of disproportionality in the county. I'm not going to start bashing about that. You all know how I feel about the school-to-prison pipeline. So I'm excited about the possibilities of connecting with Don and his staff. Don has a strong heart and a strong commitment to helping make a lot of things right in this community and throughout our county. So I wanted to offer kudos for that. One question for the handbook. Who signs the Chromebook handbook agreement? Is that for parents and students or just parents or just students?
Can we get a real quick answer on that?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Parents and students.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Next meeting will be Tuesday, March 14th, 2023. I'll call for adjournment at 8:52.
I'd like to call to order the policy committee meeting. The first agenda item is approval of the minutes. Recommended action approval of the January 10th, 2023 policy committee meeting minutes. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Call for the vote?
Yes.
Yes. There are no presentations. Moving on to agenda item 4, letter A, policy 208, withdrawal from school. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors review and approve the policy 2008, withdrawal from school as presented, and if approved to move forward that the agenda item be placed on the agenda of the February 14th, 2023 board meeting. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Any comments?
It's an adjustment and a review. Changes, age changes to reflect compensatory education.
Thank you. Call for the vote? Yes. Yes. Letter B, policy 310, telework. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the policy 310, telework as presented, and if approved to move forward, that the agenda item be placed on the agenda of the February 14th, 2023 board meeting. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Any comments?
This is a brand-new policy, and once it gets approved, we will need to work out a MOU with the association.
Thank you. Call for the vote?
Yes.
Yes. Letter C, policy 311, reduction of staff. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors review and approve the policy 311, reduction of staff as presented, and if approved to move forward, that the agenda item be placed on the agenda of the February 14th, 2023 board meeting. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Any comments?
This is not only a review, but there are also new changes to this policy that were recommended through PSBA and our solicitor.
Thank you.
They're in bold.
Sorry. Call for the vote? Yes. Yes. Letter D, policy 311, evaluation of employees. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors review and approve the policy 313, evaluation of employees as presented, and if approved to move forward, that the agenda item be placed on the agenda of the February 14th, 2023 board meeting. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Any comments?
Did you say this is 311?
No, I said
313?
313.
I'm sorry. I got lost there for 1 second. Give me a second.
Okay.
This is just a review of an existing policy, no changes.
Okay. Wait, I did read 11, right?
I know, it was
Okay,
correct.
then
No.
I started thinking when you said that, I was like, did I do say 11? Okay, all right.
No, it was me, I got lost on the pages here.
Okay.
Sorry.
Moving on to letter E, policy 314, physical.
Wait, we need to
Wait,
take a vote.
oh, so sorry. I know, call for the vote.
Yes.
And yes. Okay, now, letter E, policy 314, physical examination. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors review and approve the policy 314 physical examination as presented, and if approved, to move forward, that the agenda item be placed on the agenda of the February 14, 2023 board meeting. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Any comments?
This is a review with changes in bold that reflect update from legal review.
Thank you. Call for the vote?
Yes.
Yes. Letter F, policy 314.1, HIV infection. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors review and approve the policy 314.1, HIV infection, as presented, and if approved, to move forward, that the agenda item be placed on the agenda of the February 14th, 2023 board meeting. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Any comments?
Just a review.
Call for the vote?
Yes.
Yes. Letter G, policy 317, conduct disciplinary procedures. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors review and approve the policy 317, conduct disciplinary procedures, as presented, and if approved, to move forward, that the agenda item be placed on the agenda of the February 14th, 2023 board meeting. Do I have a motion?
Second.
No changes, just a review.
Thank you. Call for the vote?
Yes.
And yes. Policy 317.1, educator misconduct. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors review and approve the policy 317.1, educator misconduct, as presented, and if approved, to move forward, that the agenda item be placed on the agenda of the February 14th, 2023 board meeting. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Any comments?
This was adjusted with definitions and a review.
Thank you. Call for the vote?
Yes.
And yes. Letter I, policy 318, attendance and tardiness. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors review and approve the policy 318, attendance and tardiness, as presented, and if approved, to move forward, that the agenda item be placed on the agenda of the February 14th, 2023 board meeting. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Any comments?
Just a review.
Thank you. Call for the vote?
Yes.
And yes. Letter J, policy 319, outside activities. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors review and approve the policy 319, outside activities, as presented, and if approved, to move forward, that the agenda item be placed on the agenda of the February 14, 2023 board meeting. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Comments?
Just a review.
Thank you. Call for the vote?
Yes.
Yes. Letter K, policy 320, freedom of speech in non-school settings. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors review and approve the policy 320, freedom of speech in non-school settings, as presented, and if approved, to move forward, that the agenda item be placed on the agenda of the February 14th, 2023 board meeting. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Comments?
Just a review.
Thank you. Call for the vote?
Yes.
Yes. Letter L, policy 321, political activities. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors review and approve the policy 321, political activities, as presented, and if approved, to move forward, that the agenda item be placed on the agenda of the February 14, 2023 board meeting. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Comments?
Just a review.
Thank you. Call for the vote?
Yes.
Yes. Agenda item 5, informational items. Looks like we have the ARs that go with what we just, with the policies.
That's correct.
Okay. There's no old business, new business, and no public comments. I will ask for our next meeting is Tuesday, March 14th, 2023, and we will adjourn policy at 8:59.
I'd like to call to order the Coatesville Area School District Special School Board meeting for Tuesday, February 14th, 2023. Agenda item 1B, reading of the mission statement. The mission of the Coatesville Area School District, rich in diversity and committed to excellence, is to create innovative educational experiences which are funded by the taxpayers, supported by the community, delivered by dedicated teachers and administrators to ensure all students will become responsible, contributing global citizens. Agenda item 1C, advisement. By notice of the President, board members are advised that all votes shall be regarded as roll call votes. The minutes should also note that public notice was given for this meeting in accordance with Act 93 of 1998, Section 1. School board meetings shall proceed in accordance with school board policy. Madam Secretary, call the roll, please.
Rob Fisher.
Here.
Brandon Roan.
Mr. Roan is to be excused. He did contact me. Thank you.
Marvell Brown.
Here.
Holly Charest.
Here.
Andrew Finkbonner.
Mr. Finkbonner is not with us this evening.
Becky Harlan. Here. Mary Ann Harris. Here. Amelia Mills.
Here.
Jennifer Schott.
Ms. Schott had to leave. She had an emergency.
Thank you.
At this time, could everybody please stand for a moment of silence and a salute to the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Agenda item number 2, are there any additions, deletions, or modifications to this evening's agenda? To my colleagues, any additions, deletions, or modifications to this evening's agenda? Seeing none, we will move on to agenda item 3, public comment on agenda items. Lori Shannon Bailey.
Good evening. I want to comment on the resolution. It's sad to see that our teachers get to the point to where they feel like they have to be physically and verbally aggressive. But if we all remember during around that time, we were having probably consistent shutdowns or shut-ins or however you want to call it due to the abuse of the Safe to Say program in other areas where children were in their classrooms for long periods of time. So I remember October as being just a very, very difficult time emotionally for the entire community, not to mention the teachers and the students. And so I don't condone what happened to the student. I'm sad about it. But reading the resolution convinces me that this is why we need trauma-informed education. When I am at or in the presence of staff from the CCIU, they're trauma-informed. I was dealing with a teenager who tried to commit suicide a couple of years back. I got a call from the director of mental health on a Saturday, if you will. That's true trauma-informed. Please do whatever you can to get that incorporated in our district because there's a lot of trauma untreated in our community, and we all know it seeps over into the community. Again, please just do what you can to get trauma informed. I understand the training is going to start or has already started. I recall the Lincoln Center had also had some involvement in training. There was a grant from the Justice Center that had some involvement in training. There's been a lot that's been said about trauma informed, and I'm just hoping that we can get that in place as soon as we possibly can. And I think that's all I'm going to say on that matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Shannon Bailey. Moving on to agenda item 4A, adoption of consent agenda. Recommended motion that the Board of School Directors approve the consent agenda items. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Second.
This evening, I would like to remove from consent agenda under number 5, finance, letters A, and H. And under number 6, education, letter F. Again, that's A and H under finance and F under education. Are there any other items to be removed from consent agenda this evening?
So, President Fisher, I just want a clarification to ask. So under finance,
Yes.
letter G, I know that you said no, so is that over on here?
So I have a note on there that will be removed because it did not move out of committee.
Okay, thank you. Yep.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you for that clarification. Any other items to be removed from consent agenda? And actually, procedurally, Ms. Tiefendorfer, I overlooked that. I should probably deleted that at the beginning of the meeting, but you so noted.
Yeah.
So noted.
Yep, it's
Okay.
noted.
Very well.
Thank you.
Yep. Call for the vote, please.
Rob Fisher?
Yes.
Becky Harlan?
Yes.
Holly Charest?
Yes.
Mary Ann Harris? Yes. Amelia Mills?
Yes.
Arvell Brown? Yes. Motion approved.
Ms. Mills, Finance Committee.
Thank you. A, financial statements. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the financial statements, bills payable list as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
Call for the vote?
Becky Harlan?
Abstain.
Arvell Brown? Yes. Amelia Mills?
Yes.
Mary Ann Harris? Rob Fisher?
Yes.
Holly Charest?
Yes.
Motion approved.
In education, 6F, proposed expulsion. Oh, I missed one. I'm sorry. It's getting me. H, human resources report from finance. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the resignations, appointments, new positions, leaves of absence, transfers, change of status, and corrections as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion. Second.
Ms. Mills, if I may, before we call for the vote, on this evening's Human Resources Report, we have, with regret, we will accept the retirements of 5 individuals from our school district. And if my math serves me correctly, there's over 140 years of experience among these 5 retirees this evening. So I'd like to recognize Ms. Kim Kisley, 34 years of service. I had the privilege of working with Ms. Kisley here on the high school campus. Outstanding guidance counselor as well as special education teacher. Mr. Jeff Kuhn, 24 years experience. Let me tell you something, you know you're getting old when your former students are retiring. Ms. Diane Lehman, art teacher here at the campus, 36 years experience. Once again, I had the privilege of working with Ms. Lehman over the years, and let me tell you something. There was never a time that I asked Ms. Lehman to do something for the benefit of the students of this high school or the staff of this high school that she ever denied it. Ms. Lehman, thank you for your service, and you were truly a teacher that was here to service the well-rounded art students of this Coatesville High School. Brian Riker, 19 years service. Sandy Stowell, 27 years of service. And I know that the audience is slim here now, but if Ms. Stowell is listening or anybody can share this with her, I had the privilege last week of going over to Iceline in Westchester to watch a former student train for the Special Olympics. And I had an opportunity to meet with the head coach, and she mentioned to me about Coatesville High School and Miss Stowell, and how Miss Stowell took her students over to Iceline year after year after year to train for the Special Olympics. And that's the kind of teacher Miss Stowell was. So thank you, Miss Stowell, for your services, and thank you to all 5 of the retirees this evening. We accept your retirement with regret.
Okay, call for the vote?
Holly Charest?
Yes.
Rob Fisher?
Yes.
Arvell Brown? Yes. Mary Ann Harris? Yes. Amelia Mills?
Yes.
Becky Harlan?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Moving on to education. Item F, proposed expulsion 100129993. Recommended action that the Board of School Directors approve the proposed expulsion for student 100129993 as presented. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Call for the vote.
Mary Ann Harris. Carvel Brown. Becky Harlan.
Yes.
Holly Charest.
No.
Rob Fisher.
Yes.
Amelia Mills.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Moving on to agenda item 9A, public comment. The board has requested all persons making comments of public concern to list their name, address, telephone number, and topics on the sheet provided. There is a 3-minute time limit per person. No public comment this evening. Thank you. There are some informational items. All of those are the ARs moved on from the policy committee. Are there any other informational items this evening? I do happen to have one. Sometimes you got good news and sometimes you got bad news. The good news is Dr. Van Voorn, who has spent the evening with us this evening, will be officially taking over the reins of Superintendent of Schools on Tuesday, February 21st. We anxiously await your arrival, Dr. Van Voorn, and we know that you are currently finishing up some obligations that you have in your current school district. So we look forward to your arrival on Tuesday. The bad news. Dr. Dunlap, 2 years, two tours of service with us. We are grateful. We are grateful. And you know, when you're born and raised in this community, like a lot of other communities, you know, you think your community is special. And of course, we all do think that. But for an outsider to come in here as quickly as you did and relish this community and take hold of this community and guide us with your leadership and your steady hand, we'll be forever grateful for that. A lot of times when I'm out in public, you know, I hear all the wonderful comments about Dr. Dunlap. But I think the one that resonates most with me is on numerous occasions, people have said to me, I feel safe with Dr. Dunlap. Thank you.
Thank you. It's been my pleasure. I really enjoyed the opportunity to be able to serve here on an interim basis so that you could go out and select a superintendent to come in and lead this district forward. I wish nothing but the best for the Coatesville Area School District. And as I said, I've been very appreciative of the relationships I've been able to build and to try to help out here. And it's just been a great honor for me to be able to be part of this community and to be accepted by this community. So thank you.
Any other informational items this evening?
Well, I did have a couple, and I know it's late, but I think it's kind of important that we recognize a few things. Good press is always a good thing, and today's Daily Local was featured CASD students visiting Lincoln University to see a presentation and participate in a discussion of the life and work of Marcus Garvey. Our students also had the opportunity to tour this remarkable and local historic Black College University, and my colleague, Director Harvel Brown, joined them on this trip. Recently, the Daily Local featured our Raider bots. CASD's Robotic Club visited our capital in Harrisburg in response to an invitation from Representative Dan Williams. I joined the robotics team on this trip, and I can personally report that our students were great ambassadors for the Coatesville Area School District as they demonstrated their robots and their STEM skills in the rotunda for the public to see. FYI to parents here, there's going to be a summer camp. If you have a child in grade 5 and up who likes to build things and enjoys mechanics, there's going to be a robotics summer camp offered this summer. More details to come. Director Harris and I visited East Fallowfield Elementary School and observed a second grade class reading lesson. The teacher was using our new ELA program, Open Court, and the students were having success and just plain fun, showing off their reading skills. The district is well on its way with implementing the science of reading, and we are thankful for the ESSER funds that enabled us to buy this top-notch ELA program. And lastly, I'd like to give congratulations to the students who participated in our district science fair. Everybody won, whether or not you got a ribbon. You're all winners because you got that far, and you could check more information about that in our Around the Schools newsletter. And you can also read about all the other great things we have going on in this district. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing, Ms. Mills. Any other informational items? Seeing none, I'll call for a motion for adjournment. We will adjourn at 9:15.
Can you get two of them while you get? I appreciate it. This one.
You had the teal shirt on. I'm like, I'm very sure this is my daughter's like, why would she be? I go, because she was my daughter's in the class. Was she?